You're watching Cannabis Culture News Live. Jeremiah Vandermeer here with Johnny Burfello.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's been a while.
It has been a while.
I know. I grew some hair.
You did.
I have awesome hair.
You got the Elvis going on, which is very cool. I know. I like it. It's like 1950s style. You need a guitar and some gyration.
Well, what happened is the other day it was a little bit better, but
Elvis style.
I decided I was going to do this with the new hair, and of course, it singed the whole top.
Yeah, aim the torch away from.
So there's the new experience with the new haircuts. You notice it's gotten a little bit shorter all of a sudden.
And now we understand the popularity of the mullet.
That's right.
Oh, she's like,
and it's
near where
Look
the
who it is.
lighter hits the pipe is all that hair there. It's got to go.
David Malmo Levine and Jodie Emery.
Two hyphens right in the same scene.
Oh.
Yeah, if we had babies, I'll think of all the hyphens.
Malma Levine, Geese Ramsey. Woo, that's
Whoa, that's a lot of hyphens.
Although apparently, if I drink more of these, I'm not likely to have one of those.
Apparently, according to the latest science, that more than a cup of coffee a day for a pregnant woman can double her chance of a miscarriage. Yeah. And if you adjust for tobacco, cannabis does not increase chances of miscarriage or anything else.
Cannabis is not harmful to mothers or babies or humans of any kind.
There's some long-term studies on that as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just think that caffeine is more dangerous than cannabis in every category except the impairment levels of novice users. So we should definitely not settle for more regulations than caffeine currently have on them. Organic fair trade coffee bean model. That's the ideal. That's the eyes on the prize. If we get that, then we can save the world. If we don't get that, we're basically screwed because industrial hemp continues to be overregulated.
And it's good to compare it to coffee instead of how there's this constant comparison to alcohol or tobacco.
The two hardest drugs.
Deadly drug.
Yeah.
Addictive, kills you. I mean, it's absurd that they keep comparing. You're right, coffee bean model really is the best comparison when you know the truth about pot.
Us thought leaders have to lead the way and make the caffeine comparison whenever we can. Whenever someone points a camera in our face and the media wants to talk about pot and legalization, say it should just be like organic fair trade coffee beans. Why not? It's a soft drug. Pot's a soft drug. They cost about the same amount to society, same amount of risks.
This is actually more addictive.
Yeah, more addictive.
It's a
way more
overdose deaths, more overuse deaths.
They give it for free everywhere. I think I said at my House of Commons Health Committee testimony, I pointed out that they were giving out free stimulant drugs in the back of the room.
And
you
in
go
jail,
get it.
when you go to jail, would you like a coffee? I'm like, you don't push your hard drugs on me. I'm a pothead.
Good reminder, actually. One of the biggest battles in the jail cell that I was in, that was just a flashback I had, is when they give you your little food trays and everybody's bartering for, who's got coffee? Can I get your coffee? And the coffee was really valuable.
you sell sugar.
Wait, but it was powdered coffee. I'm not, no.
That's because everybody's got that monkey on their back.
That's right, man.
I had that monkey on my back too, and in fact, I still Jones hard for coffee, even though I quit coffee.
You quit coffee?
I quit coffee.
I'm sorry.
Cold turkey, 2 months ago.
I'm amazed and impressed, and I'm sorry I keep pushing it.
How come your mouth still?
I
got myself a new
everywhere.
Impressa coffee machine at the coffee espresso place. It's amazing. I get full crown every morning.
I didn't want to quit.
Oh,
I didn't want to quit, but I had to.
Did you?
I had to quit because it was making me anxious, for real anxious, and I'm never really anxious like that.
Now for me.
Yeah, it made me what is wrong? Yeah, and also my stomach, stomach lining really hurt, and when I would eat, it would hurt, even when strangely. So I knew something was wrong.
How come your mouth still tastes like coffee? Anyway, if you have a tummy ache, I found out this out. Fish bone soup can add a gelatin coating on your tummy and allow it to heal itself. So if you get ulcers or any tummy problems that you can't solve through pharma, fish bone soup.
Grind up the fish bones,
or just boil them down. It gets all jelly.
Or just swallow them whole. That's what I do.
You get a boil for a while.
I think you took up smoking cigarettes, but that's actually a joint.
Oh,
good job.
This is a Jodie
story. It's well rolled.
When the government stomps us out of business and I have nothing left to do but sit on the street corner rolling joints.
Oh.
Jodie. I'll definitely.
So tight.
Perfect.
So beautiful.
I was like, well done.
That's better than an expert
I pride
joint.
myself on being able to roll any amount of cannabis into a perfectly sized joint. So, like, if you need a prison
Show it off
house
to the camera.
pinner,
Show the filter.
You know,
look at
and
the
that
fancy
thing.
filter.
It looks like a
on that.
cigarette.
Well, you
Look at
bend it
that.
so
Got
that
little
it's like a
stubbies.
W for weed,
So
or an M
beautiful.
for marijuana, or an E for Emery, or whatever the other one is.
Yes.
3.
It's the W for wow.
Well, we should have you in the shop, Jodie, and you could be the one rolling for this. We
Great.
could fire Opus.
What's going on?
Yeah. And but see, because the joints that we have are made by a machine, so they're
Can
not
I try one of
quite-
your joints out, see if they work?
Yeah, you please do.
Does it work?
I'll test it
They
on
do.
camera.
So what I like
And
to
they're
describe,
nice joints. They're pretty tight.
they're bats.
Mine
These are
were
bats.
hand
They're
rolled.
cones.
They're
Future
By,
roller
um,
cones.
They're heaty, man. You might get busted smoking one of these, but if you smoke one of Jodie's, they'll be like,
Machine, they got
it's like
that.
a
it looks like a
cigarette.
cigarette.
Right.
cigarette,
Well,
that's
especially
all.
if you get it in a box like this, they'll definitely know that it's
They'll know.
it's not from one of the LPs.
One of the fun things about the cones, though, is that like
they allowed to
the
roll joints? I wonder.
distribution,
no.
big amount of pot at the beginning, so and then thinner at the end near the mouth. So you're literally getting high off the bat.
The
Oh,
bat.
come on, that was hilarious.
Off the bat.
Right off the bat.
I see what you did there.
Right off the bat. That was almost a David Malma Levine. Yeah.
You little batty.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Does anyone else
This is
want to
why
hit this
Jodie doesn't
bat?
have a
I think that was a
show.
home run, Jody.
You do flowers? Pat her up.
Yeah.
A swing and a miss.
Yeah, exactly. What'd the umpire think of that one? Yeah. You're out of there.
That's one strike against you, Jody.
Yeah.
Any more
Blowing over there,
baseball puns like that, and you have to go home.
that one up for me.
Oh, man, yeah, I might have to run for it.
Everybody's lighting joints. That's good. Okay, so we do have things to talk about on today's show.
Really? What are we talking
Yeah,
about?
not just
Can we
rambling on
talk
about
about
things, you know.
The referendum.
Yes.
UMB.
But wait, before
tell
we
us
do
more.
that, just before that, I have one item here because it's so hilarious.
item?
And it relates to what we're going to be talking about on the show later. But today on the show, we're going to be talking about Ontario's effort to muscle in on the marijuana industry. And Jodie is quoted today in the Ottawa Citizen. Is this today? Yeah, or yesterday?
I was just in Ottawa.
There's an article. It's Name That Pot Shop. What should Ontario's marijuana stores be called?
Trudeau's
And
cartel.
There's a lot of funny answers, and we're going to go over this article later. But I just wanted to, Jodie, your answers were hilarious,
I
and
was
they
really
quoted
upset.
you.
I was
Yes.
upset, so I was tweeting, which
What did she say?
I should probably write more than I tweet. I mean, I tweet enough that I should just turn that into an op-ed, really. But
Yes.
I was upset, and I thought, oh, what does... Okay, so they're calling it the Ontario Retail... Wait, what are
It's
they
the
called?
OCRC. It's the Ontario.
Yes, say that 10 times fast.
What is it?
Oh, I can't even name it, let
Say that
alone
5
buy
times
it.
quickly. OC, what?
It's the Ontario. Shit, I forget already.
This is what the joke is.
The Ontario Cannabis Retail Corporation.
Okay, so the Ontario Cannabis...
OCRC.
Yes.
OCRC.
It's the Ontario Cannabis Rich Guys Cartel.
Ah, see, that's a good one.
There you
Well,
go.
see, I tweeted in response with a couple cheeky ones too.
right.
Yeah.
So, if you're wanting me
And they
to
printed
read it,
these in the Ottawa
and they
Citizen.
printed it. They said the name debate provides an opportunity for commentary. Jodie Emery, the activist who helped create the cannabis culture brand and chain of illegal pot shops, said she's upset the Ontario government will have a monopoly on sales. She has her own suggestion for the real meaning behind the acronym OCRC. It stands for Oppressing and Criminalizing Rights and Cannabis, she tweeted.
Yeah.
Or perhaps Ontario Corruption and Reefer Cronyism.
Yeah.
Or our charter rights crumble. And it just has political
There you
points
go.
taken. So then it just, it goes on. So that was like, she didn't ask me to say it, but I tweeted it. And I'm just telling you, you never know when a little tweet might go a long way, or whatever you do. Talk to one person, you have no idea how that ripple might turn into a wave further on, like when you inspire people or say something. So keep
Yep.
talking. Don't
Keep
shut
tweeting.
up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're going to talk all about the new rules that the province of Ontario has released. Their proposed plan, which has massive fines for dispensaries of like $1 million.
So $1 million per day for a corporation that runs a dispensary. $250,000 per day per employee at a dispensary. And then 2 years in jail for landlords who lease to dispensaries.
I was
For 2 years
Legalization?
for landlords.
They're enforcing
Jesus.
their cartel way harder than they ever enforced prohibition.
Yeah.
It's like they're now invested in it and they really care about it.
They
yeah.
didn't want anyone to make money off a pot.
Yeah. No, they want their money. They have dollar signs in their eyes.
Their campaign contributors walked up to him and said, "Hey, you promised us a captive market. Now make it captive.
Yeah.
Throw them all in jail."
Well, I think they're going even further than any of that. Like their lobbyists and all of that. They have their own crew, and even their own people have been telling them that what their plan is going to look like isn't going to be sufficient for the market and is going to cause more problems than good. They're doing it anyways. So it just seems like, I don't know if anybody is convincing them that this is coming from inside that the liberal government, you know?
It's governments don't matter. The ones who call the shots are the ones who have the guns.
And you just compare
it's
that.
like the establishment of the law enforcement machine does not go away, and that's why Bill Blair got promoted. I can't get over that. A police chief who put innocent people in cages, not just for pot, not for breaking the law, but
pot.
G20. Let's go
Yeah.
back to G20.
For protesting.
When thousands
For
of
protesting, yeah.
peaceful, innocent Canadians were walking the street and rounded up by plainclothes officers, throwing them into
remembers that.
unmarked vehicles and locking them in dog cages in warehouses. That happened here in Canada. It was the biggest mass arrest in our
Yeah.
history.
Ripping people off the
that
streets in black vans.
And the guy in charge of this, Bill Blair, is put in charge of legalization. A drug narc who violates our rights is in charge of legalization. That was our first time something was bad.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just want to contrast those $1 million fines with what we were promised to elect these guys, these jokers, into power in the first place. Trudeau, if you look closely, what he said, he promised dispensaries, he promised we'd do best practices, he promised that we would talk to the people in the industry. When did any of us say, please give us $1 million fines? We want $1 million fines. No. The only time he talked enforcement was after he got elected. So I think we got to keep calling Trudeau a liar and saying, we want the legalization you promised us, not the legalization you promised your campaign contributors. We want the one you promised in public.
Exactly.
What are they legalizing? That's what we have to ask. If all the users and consumers and growers and sellers of today are still illegal
The right
after legalization.
for adults over 45 to buy, or over 25 or whatever this arbitrary age.
And
25.
then they also have, like, Vice just put out a good article about how the Ontario's law, they're introducing new anti-smoking laws at the same time. And basically, if you're homeless and you're smoking cannabis, you're going to get fined tickets. And that's not allowed, but they're doing it. And the other bad thing is that if you're not homeless yet and you smoke pot, you're going to get evicted in many cases. And so you might end up homeless because you choose to use legal cannabis. So we've got a ton of major issues and hurdles ahead, which I really hoped and felt like we were going to be able to sit back and just kind of help things grow. But now it looks like they're trying to, weed whacker us. So we gotta.
If enough of us stand up and continue to conduct civil disobedience, and then just defend ourselves in court, it doesn't really require a lawyer if you can't afford one. You can still get busted and just look the judge in the eye and say, I'll go to jail willingly for 20 years if you can show me one of my victims, someone who got hurt by the pot rather than ignorance. And then just keep at it, keep going to court, and making it high profile as you can. Poster, let everyone know. Do other media.
Potfacts.ca.
Potfacts.ca. And learn your shit. Learn how to defend yourself. And then if we all keep getting busted doing the things we want to see legalized, we're eventually going to find a judge who's going to agree with us. There's got to be one in Canada.
Well,
that's all you need is just one.
I don't know.
Isn't that how it's been won? It's only ever been, our freedoms have only ever been given to us
Civil
by judges.
disobedience.
After
No,
getting arrested.
after we
getting
insisted
arrested.
on
Yeah.
getting what we want by doing what we want.
Wish we didn't
But
have to be arrested anymore.
sometimes judges don't
Not
actually make sense, and they do the opposite, and they don't. Kris Bennett is here with us right now. Chris's case, that's probably one of the most egregious examples of a judge being completely kooky and not sticking, just making shit up essentially during the case, outrageously. So
It's not going to be the courts that free us. It's going to be the public education campaign that goes along with the trial that's going to free us. Because when the public knows that pot doesn't make kids stupid or crazy, then kids, and then when the public knows that they need teens to have safe access to remove car crashes and suicides and drug and alcohol overdoses, fentanyl overdoses, when they get that point, then suddenly everything changes and teens are protected. And if you could protect teens, you can get rid of the overregulation on hemp and overregulation on rec sales, so you can include the poor. poor growers and poor dealers into legalization. You can include hemp growers that want to supply their own seeds into legalization.
Don't you see how they're using
You got
your,
1
like,
minute.
your truth, the truth you're saying about how it actually helps teens and it's good for teens and young adults and will save their lives. Meanwhile, the government is saying the opposite. The messaging is all about the health risks and the health
That's the
harms and
battle.
how
It's all
dangerous.
over teens. If we get teens included in legalization, then we can save the world. If we throw them under the bus, we're dead too.
Well, what's going to happen is a lot of people are asking, why are young people still going to get arrested and go to jail under legalization?
We got to do more than that. We
So-
got to say it's not making them
not
stupid. It's not
dangerous.
making them crazy, and it's saving their effing lives like it saved mine. I was
saved mine too.
this close to suicide, and then pot just kind of took the edge off the day.
Yes.
I had adults
Happy
doing this
420.
to
Happy
me always.
420. and
Happy
it's true.
420.
A lot of people,
Happy
it's
420,
absolutely true.
everybody.
Teens and young adults, myself included, are put on all sorts of pills, all sorts of drugs. They're struggling with depression. They're struggling with anxiety.
Yeah.
They're given these pills that are proven to increase suicide rates by 33% increase in likelihood of killing yourself when you're on these don't kill yourself pills. It's madness.
Yeah.
So the fact that cannabis actually saves lives, I have no shame in saying it. I say give it to the babies because the doctors already are and it's saving their lives. No shame in that. It's the truth, and we have to be, I said, I'm sorry, just an interview I just did. I said, I'm sounding a bit outrageous and I'm sorry. And he says, no. Outrageous legislation calls for outrageous
Outrageous
language
response.
because the fact that they're doing this, like they're killing people. The only proven remedy for opioid overdoses and deaths are dispensaries and cannabis. That's it. There's no
100%.
other solution, and they're killing people every time they raid these dispensaries. So we have to call the government the murderers that they are, tell them they've got blood on their hands,
Why
and get
not?
the patients out and start really being theatrical and dramatic about it because lives are at stake.
It's the life and death.
sure.
I'll just leave with one
bad.
thought. I got to run, but before I do, I got to say one more thing.
Okay. I
Okay.
did want to ask you something, Dave,
Okay, ask
before
me
you
something.
leave.
Two things
Because we
then.
actually didn't go over your article that we
Okay.
wanted to.
Well, I can
but
sum it up in a nutshell. They're playing a game. They say, do you want it regulated like a hard drug, or do you want it regulated like a really hard
Right,
drug?
right. And
they're not acknowledging it's a
the
soft
they
drug.
is the BC government in this case.
Well, in every government, right across the country, if you look at the Saskatchewan poll, it's the same deal. And basically, what the federal government did is they said, okay, within these limitations, here's what you can argue over. Well, whether you can argue it's a hard drug or not is off the table now. They've already decided that. If you ask the people who did the commission to look into how to legalize, they wouldn't look at the evidence that it didn't make kids stupid or crazy, that IQs aren't dipping, psychosis is not increasing, even though cannabis use rates have gone through the roof. They didn't look at that evidence. They wouldn't look at that evidence. It's like willful ignorance. It's like Upton Sinclair said, if it's impossible to explain something to someone whose job depends upon them not understanding it. So
No, you're right. They're using the teens and the kids, and they keep saying over and over again, we need to make sure that young people have the right information, the
Yeah.
truth about marijuana.
Education is
their whole
the key.
game.
Terrifying.
The whole game rests-
Orwellian, Ministry of Love. I don't like the sound of that.
It's
you know?
about 20%
And-
lies on driving, and it's about 80% lies on youth. And that's their whole weapon, those two things.
But it's insulting the way that they do these surveys. So, for instance, here, this is David's article on cannabis culture called "Why the Government of BC Cannabis Regulation Engagement is a Referendum."
Yeah.
And David, that you have an actual screenshot here. I'm just going to read this. The question is, do you think the proposed criminal code penalties for drug-impaired driving are sufficient, or should BC consider additional actions to deter drug-impaired driving? So
Here's
either-
the truth on
yeah,
that.
like-
And the truth they won't talk about is that cannabis impairment is similar to most impairment. Fatigue, lack of sleep, prescription drugs, old age. I listed all of them.
Right.
But it's like that. It's not inherent in a nanogram level locatable in your bloodstream or saliva. You just can't measure impairment like that. But they won't do that because they want to continue to persecute us and pull everyone off the road who smoked pot in the last 30 days.
Find out who the pot smokers are. It's not.
It has nothing to do with impairment.
No,
it has everything to do with persecution.
And they keep saying, we know that we can't prove pot smokers are impaired. We have to find a way to do that. And it's like, no, but you're saying that you have to find proof that goes against what all the existing proof shows? You're not
look
gonna
at the
find
proof.
it.
Go to potfacts.ca. We collected a ton of proof about how it doesn't raise impairment rates, about how actually alcohol deaths go down in states that have legalized because they're
fatalities.
drinking less, and that results in fewer road accidents. So look at the
Cannabis
truth at potfacts.ca.
Hashtag cannabis truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hashtag safer choice.
Hashtag that shit. Can I say one thing
Hashtag.
before I go?
Please do.
I got the parched mouth and people
Please
are waiting
do.
on me. But I will say this. The way to end the entire drug war, the way to end the pot war is just to look at the youth stats. You know, the way to end the whole drug war is to look at who's doing the dealing. Mostly the CIA. I'd say, in my research, 80 to 90% of the drugs dealt, the hard drugs, heroin and cocaine, those drugs are CIA dealt. And cannabis culture is bravely publishing that information. The first few chapters of that research is online already. George Herbert Walker Bush, biggest, period, drug lord, period, ever, period, against this propaganda, which is all false. This is a junior partner in the Bush business, like Clinton. Anyway, so look into that, and when that is common knowledge, when every household knows that information, is familiar with it, then the rest of the drug war can end too.
That's why they don't want you to smoke pot, because that you'll end up like me, someone who was against marijuana and loved cops and loved a man in uniform and loved authority and keeping people in line. That was my whole thing in high school. And then cannabis culture and Malma Levine and Dana Larson and Mark Emery and Kris Bennett and everyone else.
Vicious effect.
You need some water for this one. But I'm telling you that people will start.
The dry mouth.
People start questioning authority, but that's what the government fears. What you just said right there gets people killed. So, you know,
Yep.
like, be safe.
That's right. Be careful on your way home,
Yeah,
David.
be safe, man.
Yeah.
Don't drive any automated cars, you know.
Yeah.
But the truth,
You're gonna get Chris up
true
here.
though, that it is brave to speak truth to power and to say the truth, and that's that the government
Stand
and the
up for what you
gangsters are
believe in.
often very much entwined together, and
It's
the
true.
banks too. I mean, it's all factual. You can see there's a movie out right now that's about the CIA cocaine smuggling. Oh,
The
what's
Barry
it
Seal
called?
movie?
Wow.
I guess
American
so.
We
Made.
actually did that
American
stuff?
Made, right?
American
So
Made
they
with
made,
Tom Cruise.
and like David Mamalevine would have told you if he was here in here. David Mamalevine, yeah, but that movie's missing all this really important information about how they totally ignored the past of some of the main characters who are totally CIA involvement, and they make them
Yes.
look innocent. And so, thanks, Malmo. Everyone can read that soon in his upcoming book about the CIA.
And actually,
drug
everybody can
smuggling.
read that right now in an article that he wrote for Cannabis Culture
He's
that's
amazing.
online about Barry. It's called American Made Up.
There you go.
So,
Perfect.
yeah, you can find that
But I'm
on
gonna
Cannabis
stop
Culture as well.
chatterboxing too and playing characters here and get to work on the rest of my errands because I go back to Toronto tomorrow. So I am gonna wrap this up and say thank you for having me
Great
and
to
letting
see
me
you,
be
Jodie.
here. It's good to be back at
Fantastic.
Thanks
Pot
for
TV
coming on
and
the show
everything.
before you left.
Yeah, and trust me, there's going to be interesting times ahead. We've got court on the 7th
Yeah.
next week, back in court, and then there's all sorts of other stuff happening next week too. But yeah, you'll see. You
And
guys
the
will
Supreme
see.
Court case.
And that's right. And exactly.
still rating
What
cannabis
day is it? What's today's date? The 4th?
Yeah, third.
So in about a month, on the 6th and 7th of December, I'll be in the Supreme Court of Canada with Kirk Tucson, Jack Lloyd, and our cannabis culture team. Maybe not. Some people shouldn't come out to Ontario. Keep yourselves
probably
safe.
not.
But we're going to be in Ottawa at the Supreme Court of Canada as part of this case. If I want to summarize it quickly for anyone who hasn't heard yet, a guy was moving beer and hard liquor from Quebec to New Brunswick a couple years ago. It's against the law because provincial governments control alcohol. So he got arrested and charged, and the court actually said, you know what? The Constitution of Canada has this section that says the government isn't allowed to stop the movement of any goods within Canada. So sorry, government, but that ticket and that law are unconstitutional. So the provincial superior court said we don't want to review this because it actually could affect the entire structure of the Canadian country as we've known it for decades. So they passed it off to the Supreme Court of Canada. So Gerard Comeau, this old retiree who took this booze across, they asked cannabis culture to help out and try and intervene because it's this little guy, the citizen and the people, versus all the attorneys generals of all the provinces saying, hell no, we have control over these borders and it's against the law. But the court has opened it up for interveners to say whether it affects them or not. And cannabis culture applied on behalf of many dispensaries and all the cannabis industry, from the mail order to the licensed producers. Everybody who contributes to pot in this country should be allowed to sell it to their fellow Canadians. So we got accepted to the Supreme Court of Canada to intervene and argue that this alcohol provincial monopoly case really does affect the upcoming legal marijuana industry, in which we're seeing governments like Ontario propose monopolies on pot distribution. So the Supreme Court of Canada this December might be the might, oh God, please let it be the one big wrench in the cog of the machine of the government and saying, you guys don't get your pot monopolies. You don't get to have your own shops. It's a free trade product and you're 100%. Not allowed to have any barriers. And that's, man, if we could win that, I'm just like, honestly, my own charges, I don't know what's going to happen with me. I'm not going to the Supreme Court of Canada. I can't afford it on my case, but we got accepted to intervene. And it's only like a 5 or 6 minute statement. So it's like we get to stand up with a couple other people and make our case. But man, if you can come out to Ottawa, let's make it a little party out there and be seen and heard and support, because this is where cannabis culture, our activist brand and our family and what we stand for, and my name right on there to make sure that we have been on the front lines and we're going to keep being on the front lines fighting for our industry and the right for us to be free to trade this life-saving flower amongst our fellow Canadians. That's what it's all about. So anyway, I'll be busy.
Very well said.
Going to Ottawa. Stay tuned on twitter.com/Jodie Emery, and I'll be back here mid-December to see everybody again and get back to work. And Christmas. Cannabis Christmas, of course.
Oh, yeah, Christmas party.
So, but yeah, thank you guys, and love to Pot TV and everybody out there. I really appreciate your support. Keep doing what you're doing. And be brave and be strong. And don't give up, because it might get dark and it might get tough, but man, we're doing the right thing and we're not hurting anybody. We're helping people. And that's, whatever happens to us, we're the good guys.
Yep. Watch out for those $1 million fines.
Yeah, that's right. Well, who cares? We don't need no stinking fines.
Yes, we don't. We've got a lot of them already. Yeah. Thanks, Jodie.
Yeah.
Awesome. Jodie Emery.
Thanks, Jodie. So
Johnny
talking
boy.
about Ottawa and people getting arrested and stuff like that, I was at the Lift Cannabis Conference in Ottawa for the week, and I was talking with some people that were actually just people coming into the dispensary to buy cannabis who were arrested and charged, and are finding this happened last week. So there was 5 people who were in the store, just customers who were charged and arrested and released, and I talked to them, and that was at your store in Ottawa. So I actually had
which store?
Cannabis
It was at our store that customers got arrested?
5 customers were charged.
When was
this?
I
talked to them directly, and this happened last week.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I did not know.
Brian knows about it too. We're just talking about it, but customers were charged
what about
staff, and everybody was fully charged. No one left without being charged. So they're not only attacking the store owners, but now they're going after customers. Yeah, I wanted to make mention. I just spent 5 days in Ottawa.
Because there was a raid.
Just last week I was talking with, I guess it's May.
A raid happened 2 weeks ago, or 2 or 3 weeks ago. Is that the same one? Maybe.
I don't know if it's the same one, but the people I was talking to were there was 5 people who were arrested, charged, and released, and they were just customers.
Wow.
And then one guy talked to me about I don't remember his name, but I talked to him in person.
And that one was we talked about and stuff. But we didn't know customers too.
The customers were charged.
Wow.
So they're really playing hardball right now, and with these laws and what's going on, it's just it's what they did even with prohibition with alcohol, and we already know that they were such harsh enforcement before things became legal. So it's be careful.
They're going to war. They're with guns. They're ramping it up, and they have the money to spend.
There's weeds. There's a few different stores that were in Ottawa that were just down the street from Parliament. We're talking within a 5-minute walk.
The quotes from some of these guys, like the mayor of Toronto, John Tory, is that his name? Yeah, he was like, I can't wait to get my hands. They're really looking forward to it. Yeah. They need resources. Yeah. And so we have Kris Bennett here now in the hot seat.
Chris has got the knowledge.
Cannabis historian.
Of a historian.
Activist.
Well, what about the States
owner.
and all this, though, man?
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen down there?
Oh, geez.
I think there's going to be some sort of federal crackdown, like Trump was just hosting the private prison industry at one of his golf courses. And
oh, really?
Trying to build a prison.
The private prison stocks have gone up immensely under Trump. And, there's more money in pot prohibition for Republicans than pot legalization. That's for sure.
Well, and these guys are crazy for real. Like, Trump is obviously worse than some of these despots from foreign countries you hear about that you don't even believe are really true.
Yeah.
He is just everything he says is completely maniacal.
Yeah,
like
it's
it really is.
insane.
It's like it's,
Fake president.
Yeah, total fake president. No, he's a nutcase, and so is the people around him too, like Jeff Sessions. Obviously, they're willing to do just about anything for this guy. Like I think they're all treasonous. It seems like with this Russia thing. My goodness. Well, it looks like their whole thing's falling to bits, though.
Thank God I don't have cable or watch the news because I have no idea what you guys are talking about. Thank God, my own little bubble of just worrying.
It'll catch you one day.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I keep hearing about this stuff. Like, got to get cable. I'm like, why? I got like YouTube, and I talk to my cannabis activists. I'm on Facebook, and I'm always traveling and having fun, and we educate, and we just get to hear the news on what we talk about. It's sorry to see what these governments are doing, but
his whole government's falling apart now. It's all coming out. They were colluding.
Even when
with
I was in
Russia
Ottawa, I've never seen
and
anything like it. The government of Colombia was there, and they shut down streets. There was like 40 cop cars swerving around. I actually filmed it and stuff like that.
Where was this?
In Ottawa.
What were they swarming around?
I had the whole thing found. We counted over 30 cop cars were sitting on the corner of Milestones of the West and overlooking Parliament, and all of a sudden he's found like 30, 40 cop cars. And
doing what though?
I guess they were escorting somebody to and from Parliament.
Oh.
And it was quite intense to see. I've never seen anything like that before in my life. And it happened all Sunday night and Monday morning. So they were escorting someone around from another country. And by the flag they were flying, it was a Colombian government because they fly a certain flag apparently on these streets. And then we saw the next day all these flags. So, I mean, the government's working. And one thing that's happened now, and understand, Colombia's gone legal with cannabis. And I know someone who's down there right now, Pine Fields, and got a license, Breeder Steve, that is growing for the Colombian government. So you got to see what's going on, what I'm talking about here. Governments are working with governments in order to supply because we can't supply cannabis as it's going to go legal in Canada with the LPs that are operating. So they're now stepping outside of countries. So they got to bring it in. Like we'd look at a bigger picture of what's going on. So it's there's a lot of stuff going on.
More
in
of
the
that
world.
stuff.
It's more of that stuff. I mean, we got governments that are legalizing, and governments are going to work within governments to supply. That's what we're seeing.
It's true. And we have Kris here, so I wanted to talk to him a little bit about his latest article for Cannabis Culture. I mean, we could talk about all kinds of stuff with Kris. We've had him on the show many times, and you can read his blogs at Cannabis Culture about the history of cannabis and how it relates to all kinds of cool stuff. The latest is how it relates to the Templars.
Knights Templar, yeah.
So So first off, for people who don't know who the Knights Templar are,
they were a group of knights during the Crusades. During the Crusades, people had felt what had happened in Europe through the Dark Ages, as people had lost contact with the Holy Land, and they felt the religion was kind of not meeting what it was supposed to do, and there were these crusades to regain the glory of the biblical days by going back to the Holy Land, and part of that was people taking pilgrimages there, and the Knights Templar became stationed in the Holy Land in order initially to help pilgrims make it there without getting attacked and that sort of thing, and then protect European, I guess, imperial sort of interests in the Holy Land, But the idea is that, they became contaminated or influenced by certain heretical sects in the Mideast, and one of these being the Hashishin, or more widely known as the Assassins. Hashish and Assassins actually come from the same root, Hashishin.
Right.
And this is, goes back to the famous story of Marco Polo about how the old man of the mountain would drug new initiates with a hashish potion, convince them that they had died, and they'd wake up in a garden with beautiful girls and wine-flowing streams and think they'd gone to paradise. And then they'd be drugged again, and then he'd say, "See, now I've shown you the glory of the afterlife. You're going to follow me and do as I say." And then they'd be like, according to Marco Polo's story, loyal servants. More likely, the cannabis was used in more of a mystical way and in possibly initiations.
Right.
And there has been various claims by a doctor in Italy, Di Ciocco, I think his name is, that the Templars had a wine infusion into cannabis infused wine that was known as the elixir of Jerusalem. And this appears in a number of sources. And initially, I tried to track down the origins of this to see if there was anything in the historical record. And I couldn't find anything beyond 1990 that indicated that this was possible. However, when I went back into the historical records from the time period and looked at things like items seized and Templars' arrests and other documents, I found that the Templars had Saracens, Arabic guys, growing cannabis for them in Spain. And this is at a time period when hashish was legal in Spain. And Saracens would not be people that you would get to grow industrial hemp. These were people that grew resin cannabis, not the sort of varieties you'd find over in mainland Europe. And then cannabis was seized under the name cannabis, the Latin name cannabis, at 2 Templar raids on the Templar properties. 42 pounds in one case and 11 pounds of silver's worth in another case, which was probably still a considerable amount.
And they called it straight up cannabis.
Yeah, they just say straight up cannabis. I think
Same
if it was
spelling,
processed, well, it's like cannabis, so it doesn't have the S, but it's a Latin variation. There's very different Latin variations of cannabis. So certainly cannabis.
And that, just a quick note, that's how we know a lot of this stuff is through etymology, right? And
Yeah. No, there's no debate about the word being cannabis. It's clearly a reference to cannabis.
Right.
And if it was processed cannabis like rope or cloth or something like that, or even seeds, it would have been more specific about that. So this was some sort of form of raw cannabis. And we know at that time that cannabis-infused wines start showing up in Europe. There was a pope who was friendly with the Templars before they fell out of favor with the Catholic Church. That had a recipe for a cannabis-infused wine for medical purposes, and there's also recipes from Villa de Honnecourt, a mason from the 13th century who spent time in the Holy Land, and his famous manuscript, he had a recipe for a cannabis-infused wine.
What is that recipe? How do you make this wine? You've made some of this wine yourself.
You can make cannabis wines pretty easily. Maybe you want to toast the cannabis a little bit to decarbonize it and just throw it in some wine. A good way to make it is to save your volcano seconds. The stuff you've run through the volcano, take a handful of that and throw it in wine. It depends how strong it's going to be, depending on the potency of what you're working with. But cannabis-infused wines were hugely popular in the ancient world and appear in a variety of cultures. Hashishins were said to have initiated with a cannabis-infused wine, and that was likely adopted from earlier Persian recipes in the Zoroastrian religion, which were written about and refer specifically to cannabis being infused as well. So, this sort of thing is nothing new in the area, and even into the 19th century, Charles Dickens was writing about cannabis-infused wines in the Mideast in his journal all the year round. So nothing new there, nothing old, very old. Like cannabis-infused wines go back to ancient times, and widespread throughout the Mideast.
And so it's funny that this stuff just doesn't appear in regular history books, and it's one of those things that is kind of lost in the mist,
there's been a lot of claims about the Templars and cannabis in various occult works and pseudo kind of histories that aren't very well referenced or researched, but it hasn't really been looked at or considered as one of the reasons for the claims of heresy against them.
Right. So this article that we have on cannabis culture is called Cannabis, the Holy Grail, and the Secrets of the Templars.
The Holy Grail part probably sounds pretty outrageous to people, but numbers of scholars have talked about the Persian origins of the Grail mythology, and this is all directly related to Heoma. There was a cup that the Heoma and Soma being the sacred beverage of the Persian Vendidad and the Indian Vedic religion, for Soma. And
made with.
They had a cup that they drank it from that was called the Graha, very etymologically similar to Grail, and much of the mythology as well, based around it uses numbers of Persian names in some of the old accounts and other things. And this is also related to what's known as the cup of Jamashid. And this is another version of the Grail. They say the Grail grew out of this, and this is tied in with the Persian religion, the Zoroastrian references where they were taking cannabis-infused wines, and the sacred cup that it was drunk from. And this has all been tied in with the Grail. So there's a lot to it. And it's actually pretty fascinating stuff. It's an interesting spin on European history. And this, is also tied in with alchemy. The Grail has been often commented on for its alchemical symbolism. And in this same period, we start to see these sacred alchemical drinks known as quintessences and arcanums that are cannabis-infused wines showing up in the literature and, Paracelsus makes reference to it. Avicenna, the famous Islamic alchemist, he makes reference to cannabis-infused medicines, and other people as well. So it's nothing undocumentable, but it's new information to most people. But I think that's true of cannabis history in general.
And when you say alchemist, we're talking about people who are using this substance for a type of transitional brain.
Well, you know, alchemy is such a broad term, you know, and the cannabis references show up in spagyric alchemy, which is related to the use of plants. A lot of it is medicinal. But alchemists, you know, there's also this there's some more esoteric elements which are less written about, and when they are written in a way that is to confuse the uninitiated. So there's a lot of symbolic language and allegorical language. But the idea is you know, behind alchemy is there's this marriage of the sun and the moon, and this is kind of, I would say, you know, Carl Jung this is where a lot of Carl Jung's ideas about psychology comes from. And, you know, he would say that, you know, the moon represents the unconscious or the subconscious, and the sun represents your present awareness of consciousness, you know. And this is interesting when it comes to cannabis, you know, like a lot of the references I looked at when I was writing my new book, Libre 420, Cannabis, Magical Herbs, and the Occult, have to do with magical mirrors. And we start to see cannabis being used with magical mirrors as early as 16th century in grimoires like Libre Raziel, Sefer Salomonis, and the Book of Oberon, and other texts from the 16th century. And what it is, I think, is that cannabis, in a way, is facilitating contact between the unconscious or subconscious, as it's called, and the regular form of consciousness. And when I mean like subconscious and unconscious, there's a level of consciousness that's below our regular consciousness. We don't, you know, aren't aware of everything, every memory, all that type of stuff, but it is recorded in an area of consciousness that they refer to as the subconscious and unconscious, and this often can come out at night. You know, like you have dreams at night, and you could be, you're in your dream, you're telling yourself the dream, and you're different characters in the dream, which is like schizophrenic, you know, basically, right? And so how's that working, right? So it's like your mind is interacting with itself somehow, and the thought is the interaction between the subconscious mind and your regular mind. Your subconscious mind's kind of putting your regular mind in a story to convey information in a more symbolic way. And one of the things that they've been finding out about cannabis when you use it during the daytime is you get this huge spike in melatonin. In some cases, they say as much as 4,000 times regular daytime levels. Ooh. Melatonin is directly related to sleep and dreaming. And one of the common things that people that use a lot of cannabis report is they don't dream as frequently. And this is likely due to the same rise in melatonin during the day. And what I found is that if I get up about 4 in the morning and I take a couple of hits of cannabis and I go back to sleep, I have the most intense dreams I ever had. And I'm attributing this to the same spike in melatonin. So when people are using it, say with magic mirrors, for instance, I suspect that they're triggering the same sort of interaction between consciousness and subconsciousness that you experience in sleep. And the one talking to you from the mirror is the same one that tells you your dreams at night.
And so when these mirrors are used, they're like, it's called, is it scrying?
Scrying, yeah. Usually it's a dark, opaque mirror. In the case of the cup of Jamashid, the guy would actually look into the cup itself and start to see a vision in the cup, you know? Or even like something like the moon could be used as a magic mirror.
And it's like a Rorschach dot or something.
Yeah,
right?
well, you start to see shapes and identify it, and then your mind starts to put meaning to it and tell you something from it. In some cases, you know, with John Dee and Edward Kelly, they would hear from the mirror. There'd be somebody in the mirror talking back at them.
Right, Kelly would hear it.
Yeah, you know, and Dr. John Dee and Edward Kelly, they were around at the time that these English grimoires were around that specifically referred to cannabis and other substances for mirror scrying. So these are likely the grimoires that they were using.
What about Dee's stuff? Did he write
I
about
think
cannabis?
that there is references to, you know, it has not been written about, but I went back over Dee's records, and there's this interesting account where Edward Kelly is like trying to convince this entity to talk to him from the mirror. Yeah. And the entity's like, but you haven't bought me any drugs. And Edward Kelly opens up the empty apothecary box and goes, well, look, my apothecary box is empty. And the thing from the mirror is saying, Well, how about ointments? You got any ointments? And they also talk about drinking a vial that makes him. He drinks from a vial and it makes him kind of sleepy and stuff, right? John Dee was a student of, was in contact with Kunrath, the famous alchemist, who was a student of Paracelsus, and we know Paracelsus wrote about cannabis. He had a famous arcanum that contained cannabis, and he was also using opium. In fact, reports from the 16th century say that Paracelsus's Philosopher's Stone was in fact a preparation of opium.
Well, there you go.
So these substances were really important, both in magic and alchemy.
Right, and not just there, but this pops up everywhere. Cannabis use pops up in all kinds of
medicine
cultures.
too. You know what I mean? It's starting to appear medically, and in this time period as well, like. Medicine and magic and science are all part and parcel of the same thing. There's no division between those practices. It's all part of one bigger conglomerate of practices and groups of thought,
Mm-hmm. And this thing that you were talking about when you were just sort of explaining about the sort of Gnostic side of cannabis use and getting in touch with, I guess what you would call that word Gnostic could be used to refer to that. There's probably more of a technical term nowadays with, hypnagogic and all that kind of stuff. But the Templars themselves were into that kind of stuff.
Well, there's like a book that came, a number of 18th century writers were suggesting that what the Templars had become in contact with in the Holy Land was surviving Gnostic sects that were supposedly had been thought to be suppressed with the rise of the Roman Catholic Church. Similar claims were made about the witches and also in Europe against the Cathar heresies. And we know that Gnostics, Manichaeans, survived into the 12th century in China. And in China, they were complaining about the Gnostic incense houses. And when they were critical of the Gnostics, they used this pun to criticize them. The word for spirit, mo, and that for cannabis, ma, are very similar in the Chinese language. And the Manichaeans would refer to themselves as spirit father or spirit mother, but the Chinese, in mocking them, would call them hemp father or hemp mother in relation to the incense houses that they were running and that they were concerned about.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's very
so we know that there were surviving Gnostic sects into the same period. There's Gnostic groups like the Mandeans and the Sabians, which still survive today in the Middle East. So the idea that the Hashishins or other Islamic group like the Nazari were practicing some sort of Gnostic religion carried over from more ancient times can't be easily dismissed.
Yes. I'm going to take a quick dab here. But maybe tell us a little bit more about the book coming up, Libre 420.
Libre 420 is mostly, I've tried to focus on from about the 11th, 12th century up into about the beginning of the 19th century. And its focus is on the role of cannabis in alchemy, magic, and the occult. And this includes things like the Grail myth and stuff like that. But, in regards to alchemy, I've got documented references specifically to cannabis in the works of one of the first known alchemists, Zosimus, 4th century figure, very important figure in alchemical history. He wrote about cannabis-infused wines and beers being used in magic in his time. Avicenna, Geber, and other famous Islamic alchemists were using cannabis in their preparations, and that they wrote about it, and there's references in there. And then famous European alchemists like Paracelsus and Cardano, and particularly Francois Rabelais. He wrote about cannabis in coded terms under the name the herb Pantagruelian, and he described himself as the extractor of the quintessence, which was one of these alchemical elixirs where cannabis often appears. So major part, in alchemy, and then in magic we have books like Sefer Raziel, Liber Salomonis, the Book of Oberon, and other magical texts that specifically refer to the use of cannabis for mirror scrying and other forms of magic. And this carries on into the 19th century. We see that people like Pascal Beverly Randolph using cannabis and magic mirrors, Louis Alphonse Cahagnet, Eliphas Levi wrote numbers of times about the role of cannabis in magical practices. And so this has been a largely ignored...
All the way up to Crowley, really.
All the way up to Crowley and even after,
Yeah.
But, I find, the same sort of thing happens with witchcraft, where there's this, neo-pagan movement that's drug-free, and that has nothing to do with what was going on in that period. There was all sorts of psychoactive substances being used. And, for instance, in the one of the big grimoires that was really important was this grimoire known by the name Picatrix. It's kind of like the foundation of the Western magical movement.
Yeah.
This was originally an Arabic grimoire called Gayat al-Hakim, and it has references to hashish and opium, mandrake, and all sorts of psychoactive substances. In the Picatrix, cannabis is used as incense in which a figure is invoked into the smoke. So they'd mix hashish with stag's blood and some other substances, and then they would burn it, and they would see this entity in the smoke, and this is the effects of cannabis combined, like you were saying, with the hypnotic and other effects. People start to see something, they focus on the smoke, and they start to identify something, and this sort of this is called capnomancy, and it's a common practice in magic. And this is what I would say that is really important about these biblical references as well, because you have the figure of Moses, who could be seen as an ancient magician. He uses this cannabis, holy anointing oil, puts some on his body, and then he places some of it on the altar of incense, and he invokes the Spirit of the Lord in the pillar of smoke.
Yeah.
And he sees the angel of the Lord in the pillar of smoke over the incense altar. Yeah. And when you throw cannabis into that with the various prayers and invocations and stuff like that, this becomes like a shamanic magical act. And the use of a psychoactive substance taps into the areas of the subconscious and unconscious, and words start to come back out of the smoke.
That's pretty crazy. Well, and it seems to be, it's so funny that it pops up everywhere, but not that many people are connecting the dots on this.
Well, I'm not, there's probably people are starting to think I'm starting to sound like an atheist, and I'm writing off all of the spiritual experience with, they're just taking drugs and having hallucinations, and that's not my belief. My whole trip with cannabis started with very powerful spiritual experience under its effects, and that's what drove me to understand how it played a role in that.
They work together.
And I think that cannabis is here now in this time and in this age specifically to cause a paradigm shift in the way that we treat the world and that we look at religion. And I think, particularly... And I think this is one of the threats that the Templars, who were, according to some of the older century sources like von Hammer-Purgstall, was that they had information that they thought would bring down the Catholic Church and end the religion, called the Qiyamah by the Assassins, and an Islamic thing about the end of religion. And I think that when we really begin to understand the role of cannabis in the ancient world, that cannabis is as much a threat to fundamental and orthodox religion as Darwin's theory of Genesis was to the myths of Genesis and Adam and Eve, because what it shows is the plant-based shamanic origins of religion itself. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And this is something these Abrahamic religions have battled against wherever they've traveled around the world, whether it be at the beginning of the Dark Ages when Gnostic and pagan sects were suppressed and their books burnt, or during the Middle Ages when wise women and witches were burnt at the stake for using psychoactive substances and healing with them, or coming into the New World where people were persecuted for using the peyote, the magic mushroom, and other substances, or in Africa, and it's all called witchcraft and sorcery. It just goes on and this is how their whole religion started. Yeah. So I think it's
been going on for a long time.
The drug war's been going on for a long time, and I think this is really powerful information. In fact, I think it's a revelation.
Huge. Yeah. Wow. Well, and this is kind of, this is your fourth or fifth book now?
Fourth
book.
Yeah.
Now. And there's a theme going on here. You're weaving together this ancient history of cannabis and how it has sort of propelled all of our civilizations in a multitude of ways, and where a lot of our some of our main doctrines seem to have been influenced deeply by cannabis.
Well, thoughts like heaven and hell. This comes from the Zoroastrian tradition originally. It wasn't in Judaism, and it comes from specifically the Ardu Virak. And Ardu Virak is given 6 cups of cannabis-infused wine, drinks it, and is knocked out for a couple of days, and then comes back and says, "This is what I have seen. I saw the righteous rewarded in heaven, and the unworthy punished in hell," and goes on to give descriptions of both. And, this is thought to have influenced later Islamic thought through Muhammad's own night flight to Mecca on the mythical beast. And, it's interesting, even in Islamic religion, there's the Dabistan, written in the 16th or 17th century, which was a collection of Islamic and Indian lore, describes Muhammad preparing bong by straining cannabis through his turban. And they say that's how his turban got the green color that it was attributed to have, was by straining bong through it. You know what I mean? So these sorts of traditions are widespread, pervasive, and get more interesting the more you know about them,
No kidding.
It speaks the truth.
In your article, you talk about the Templars and Friday the 13th. That's kind of how
that's when they were arrested. Friday the 13th, 1307. It was like this big mass raid on a number of Templar properties, secretly orchestrated. All the people involved in the raids were given, sealed documents they weren't supposed to open up until the night before, and they went around and raided them. And then they kept strict accounts of everything that they took from their properties and stuff, and that's how we know about
raids.
Yeah. There was definitely, they didn't want them hiding anything. They were, they were after all the records and everything on the property.
Mr. Cookie Man's got meditainers.
Well, what we're doing is we're doing some. We're speaking. We're looking for some. Like I said, we're using the Canic lamp. So what we got going on here is we got the Truth Seeker. So Brian's brought some really tasty weed, but we're gonna see what it squishes like. So the thing is with me lately is I've been like going around and like people got some good weed. Well, I squish a gram and really see what's in it. Mm-hmm. And it's really becoming this thing where it's like, well, how good's your weed? Well, let's find out. Give it a squish. So we're gonna squish some here right now, and I keep listening to Kris, but we're running out of dabs, so I kind of want to get you one, dude. So we're gonna squish something. What is this called, Brian?
Purple candy.
Purple candy. Sweet skunk, purple candy, and an XL too. I wonder where that guy got that sucker from. Nice job.
Everybody's loving the rosin these days. Johnny's one of the originators.
Well, I was just the guy that took a hair straightener and a
rosin's not really new.
Rosin's not new. Let's talk about rosin.
There's an Islamic method where they would boil cannabis and then they would collect the drops of oil on the top of the water, and this was apparently pretty potent. They would mix just a couple of little drops into some yogurt,
that would be.
And that was how they got rosin. Also, they would get keef and put it in a sack, have it sitting up above a fire, and then slowly turn the sack, and then the oil would secrete on the outside of the sack, and that would be collected. So cannabis oils, which was basically rosin, not extracted with solvents, heat extracted, was around back then as well.
Yeah, they were dabbing.
Well, you know what? Cannabis
maybe they had little stone
before
dab
that,
rigs.
we found it in the pucker fish, so we already know how far cannabis goes. So only comes to think that, of course, they've been using all different forms of cannabis by heating it, by some type of extractions, going all the way back to pygmies and stuff like that. The history on it more than anybody, Kris. We can really, really look back and how cannabis and how resin has really affected mankind throughout history.
Absolutely, man.
It's always been there. In some form or another, we've always been consuming cannabis to feed our endocannabinoid system because we need it for daily function.
Yeah,
that's just the way I feel.
The origins of this story. We're talking about the
Hashishins, yeah.
Hashishins.
That's where the word assassin.
We're gonna make some hashishin here right now. Yeah. We're gonna make some.
Yeah, and so, but that they must have. How did they extract their hash? They probably did the old-fashioned method.
Well, hashish actually just means herb, like the herb, kind of like the herb of herbs,
Right.
In the Islamic world, they knew about sift hash, they knew about rubbed hash. There was a variety of products around. A lot of times, it was mixed with other stuff. You know what I mean? So it could be be mixed into, like you got to remember, like smoking joints or pipes is thought to be relatively new. Came around with the New World tobacco smoking. Before that, it was mostly ingested. So a lot of times they were taking it in prepared foods like majoun or dawam mesk, and this was with pistachios and figs and things like that, all chopped up, or prepared infused in wine. And cannabis infused wines were again very popular, but very seldom smoked. Like sometimes burnt occasionally in an enclosed area, like a tent or something like that. But most of it was ingested or drank.
Yeah. And that, when did they start doing it? Because even the Greeks and others were doing and like the story about Moses, I guess, is talking to the burning bush.
Well, the oldest reference, oldest evidence we have of cannabis being used for, non-fiber purposes or, food purposes is a 5,500 polypod bowl from the Ukraine region where they were burning cannabis. And this was cannabis burnt inside of a cave, and then they would capture the smoke in the cave and inhale it. So, burning cannabis goes way back, and many of the ancient references, like the Assyrian references, they have all different preparations, infusions, edibles, but they also referred to cannabis incenses and stuff as well.
Huh.
That's the best part about cannabis is the incense, and we talk more about those terpenes. And you know what? I mean, how much have you been related back to history where they talk about the fragrance where they're using terpenes in any kind of?
Well, they don't even know what terpenes are. Cannabis is like a thing, you know what I mean? So they don't have it all separated.
It wasn't separated, but if we go back into aromatherapy and stuff like that, and the dude talks about essence and smells and flavors, and when we look at that, like just incense for general healing and stuff like that, is there anything going back to like into those times of any kind of using any kind of oils of the scented oil?
Well, I would say, like the scent-wise and burnt-wise, most of that is more of a ceremonial type of situation in a temple. A lot of the medicinal stuff is topical or ingested.
Right.
So yeah, I'd say
it wasn't really talked about in the medical end. So that's what I was just curious about, right? Like how far does it go back into talking about that and more on the medical aspects and how it's helping patients with the fragrance or the smells?
No, not by the smell. It doesn't make any reference specifically. Oh, the smell cured this. You know what I mean?
That was funky.
It's more like more like
like
something like hand of ghost, which is thought to have been epilepsy, and you take a preparation of cannabis and you use it, but it's nothing specifically about terpenes or the scent of it or anything like that.
I'll go down history that when I did my surgery, and Mark, Bob Man brought over those 15 different terpenes, and how one of those fragrances actually took my pain away.
Oh, great.
And I really realized that. That's why I was just curious on, is there anything going back in time? Because it's just what happened. I'm feeling it like I could feel it, how it affected me, as in I wasn't concentrating on the pain. The smell had then taken over in a sense that I had forgotten.
Yeah, Johnny, your microphone.
Oh, sorry. I'm talking to the rosin plant, but yeah, no, I was just sorry. I was just curious on the smells and if there was anything related back into history where it's medical and on how it was affecting people on a medical.
Nothing that I can recall.
So something to look for. I should be there.
The terp references.
Terp references.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure they had it. I'm sure that it was all there. It was like just burning a whole plant, but they don't really have a thought about, you know what I mean? Like the cannabis smells nice, maybe, sweet smelling incense for the Lord. It was definitely burned in the temple, partially because of they like the smell of it,
There's this common thread throughout history of cannabis being used as a medicine or as something that is, causing a medicine for your brain in another way, helping you get in touch with some other, brainwave state or Godhead or whatever it is. And you've written a lot about this. You have several books. This is your fourth book now. And even the one, what are you doing there?
That sizzle?
I do.
Can you hear the sizzle? So the sizzle.
Oh yeah.
Speaking some truth right now.
Tell us about some of your other books. Tell us actually first about the one about the Bible, which is interesting.
Well, Sex, Drugs, Violence, and the Bible, that was my second book. My first book was called Green Gold, The Tree of Life, Marijuana, Magic, and Religion. That came out in 1995, and it was an overview everything else that I've written about since, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what I could get my hands on at that time. At that time, there was no internet, and so it was all my research was done in libraries and books and things like that.
This was 80s, 90s?
I wrote, that came out in 1995, so I wrote that between 1990 and 1995 type of thing.
Yeah.
And when I was researching that, I came across Sula Bennett's references to cannabosum, this Hebrew term that appears in the Old Testament in Exodus 30:23 and Ezekiel and Jeremiah and the Song of Songs and the book of Isaiah.
What's Jeremiah say?
Jeremiah's against it.
Yes.
Your Canada does not please me. You're Canada from a distant land. He's like, is definitely against it. And that was one of the things. I had these 5 references that Sula Bennett referred to, and when I looked at them, they conflicted because the early ones were quite positive, and then the later ones were quite negative. And so then I had to come to understand the whole. I had to get to figure out what these references meant in the context of the stories that they appeared in. And so that led to the writing of Sex, Drugs, Violence in the Bible, because it all had to do with sex, drugs, and violence in the Bible,
Yeah, and the Bible is full of that.
Yeah, the suppression of it, you know what I mean? I would say the early references, cannabis is acting as kind of a shamanic tool to hear the voice of the Lord, and the later references are against that, because what's taken place is that by this time it's gone from like a little tribal religion to this big organized kingdom. And it's more about how many tithes you give to the temple and the rules for living in the city and that type of stuff than crazy revelations coming from prophets in the Smoky Temple.
The Smoky Temple. I like that. That smells like a good place to be.
And so even Christian favorite, Jesus himself.
Well, the term Christ or the Messiah means the anointed one. And the idea is that Jesus had partaken of this holy oil that's described in Exodus 30:23 that Sula Bennett wrote. The term cannabosum means cannabis. And it's not just that the word cannabis and cannabosum sound the same. That's what some people who try to dismiss this say. What Sula Bennett did is she traced the modern word back. Cannabis showed that in the later Jewish terms it was cannabos, and then became cannabosum as she traced it back through. And that was a big part of her argument. But what's really important to remember is that coinciding with this in the same period, there was the term kanabu being used in Assyria for cannabis in exactly the same way. Topical anointing oils to awaken one's ear to God, incenses for the temple, and that type of thing.
Yeah, because there is no other plant that does that.
Yeah, it's the identical use, and even the people that we know that it appears in the writings of, like Ashurbanipal and Esarhaddon, these guys appear in the Bible in the Book of Kings. So it's like coinciding with the same place. As well, we have archaeological evidence from the 2nd or 3rd century of a woman that died during childbirth, and cannabis was being used topically and being burnt inside the area that she was being treated from the complications of childbirth. And so, it's pretty clear that it was there, that it was used in this way. And, and some people say cannabosum, like, it was mistranslated as calamus in modern Bibles. And this mistranslation took place when the original Hebrew was translated into Greek and Latin. Calamus is a common marsh root, so it's not cannabosum, which is a very rare and specific item. It's described as an item of trade. And then other people say cinnamon or something like that. But I think when you take a look at the evidence for cannabis and then compare it to how it was being used in neighboring Assyria, it's pretty clear that this was a reference to cannabis. And I think this is really one of the more powerful, for the West anyways, where the Bible plays such an important role, one of the more important references for people to focus on.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, it's funny.
People got to really kind of like take a look, and they'll see if they do the research like you have.
I got a video. Anybody that's not familiar with this cannabosum stuff, I've got a video on Pot TV. You can find it by searching cannabosum on Google, Kaneh, another word, BOSM, and the video and articles that I've written will come up. But the video has Professor Carl Ruck in it, Dr. Ethan Russo, and other academics that I've interviewed about some of this stuff. And them talking about it specifically, and we go all over all the ins and outs of the etymology involved and the references where they appear in the Bible. We'll give you the full lowdown on it. Likewise, if you want to find out about these Christian references, just search Jesus, cannabis, and my name, and you'll come up with articles I've written about this and newspaper. You know, this stuff's been covered by BBC, The Guardian, The Washington Post. My book on the Bible was reviewed in the London, England Sunday Times, and you know, so there's been a lot of opportunity for people to come along and disprove the type of things that I've been suggesting, but it hasn't happened in any satisfactory way yet.
Well, you've been educating the masses, Kris, and that's like fantastic.
It's been my pleasure, really.
I know, like the world of education that comes out of you, and it's always fantastic.
It's pretty remarkable.
When you come on House Church, when you're everywhere throughout time, I always stop by and see you whenever I'm in town. Like you're just nodding your head.
No, thanks, man.
Always love coming over and listening to you talk.
Nobody is connecting these dots.
Nobody is, but there's no turning it down. And we talked in the past. I mean, all the dots you're connecting there's facts. It's just like reading it. You guys got to read. Oh yeah. Oh well. You know, I can't deny it when something
I think I
just
have been very lucky or blessed or something like that to have just been given the right key to be looking for. You know what I mean? Like
that's your path.
Searching cannabis and, you know, these old words, or searching old spellings of cannabis in Latin and other things, and just finding this stuff. It was all just sitting there waiting. You know what I mean?
How many languages?
And the same sort of thing happened at the beginning of the hemp revolution. You know, what really got the hemp revolution going was when Jack Herer collected all this documentation that showed how industrial hemp had been used. When I first got into hemp in 1990, people didn't even know the word hemp anymore. I smoked pot, grew pot, thought I knew everything there was to know about pot, and then somebody says, oh, you know, it used to be called hemp, and we used to make all our paper and our clothes and everything out of it. I was like, oh, that's bullshit. And then I saw a little short documentary on it, and I was like, whoa. And then I went to the library and started looking stuff up, and sure enough, that was true. And it was when things like the Popular Mechanics article, the $1 Billion Crop, or the World War II film, Hemp for Victory, that encouraged farmers to grow hemp for the war effort. Yeah. When that sort of stuff started becoming out, it became a real reality and a real movement. And I think that we can go a long way with the sort of information that we dig up in history, in rewriting history, because history is what makes the future. And we can change that history, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And that book propelled a lot of people into this activist community.
Absolutely, man.
Really inspired everybody, because nobody had really connected those dots before. So, and if you guys haven't read The Emperor Wears No Clothes, you should get a copy of that. It's one of the greatest cannabis-related books out there.
Fundamental. You know, I mean, if you're not familiar with The Emperor Wears No Clothes and Hemp and the Marijuana Conspiracy, you just haven't even started to get, you know, really know your stuff. That's like one of the first things you should check out.
Yeah. Oh, Johnny's got this. Oh.
I'm looking for some rosin. And that's the whole thing. It's all about a lot of the stuff we do is just a little too dry, and humidity plays such a key role. So that's why I always listen for the sizzle. After 9-10 seconds, I'm not getting the sizzle, then we got some problems, right? Then we're not getting what we're looking for. So I'm just like seeking for what we're all looking for, which is what I seek every day.
There you go, man. The quintessence of cannabis.
Yes.
That's what rosin is.
That's exactly what rosin is. And it's just really amazing how, you know, how one person just stumbled across it by using a curling iron and a little bit of resin. And
well, the first guy was Buddy, what was his name? Chad on the island. He came up with the term rosin. And he was doing it in a fry pan. They would get keef initially. They'd get their keef, and then they heat it up in a fry pan and get the oil to separate, and then scrape up that oil, and then really develop further out of that. But initially, they were trying to get the hash of the hash, and he deemed it rosin for some reason. I forget why he came up with that term.
This is the guy who's got all the knowledge. I love it.
Well, I just happened to be there when they were doing some of that stuff and smoking with them. So,
this is another squish, and we saw the first one, and we're seeing the second one. So, of course, Brian, he knows his stuff. He's kind of stepped out here, but smell that. Isn't that so terpy? Smell that, Kris. Just have a smell of that. That smells so amazing. So, I mean, like, hey, for that guy who's just going to go buy an ounce of weed, or he's buying a pack or whatever, I mean, grab a gram squish. And if you're getting something like that, you know you're going to get a good buy. If you're not getting nothing, You know, it's really, like I say, she speaks truth. It's
Yeah.
It really, and
I find the volcano can really tell too. If there's no vapor thrown out, then you got shitty weed.
see, that's the great thing. It's all these knowledge of a volcano. How do we seek and look for that? But I mean, for me, this has just been like this gift that came to me.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. A lot of people are shaking their buds these days before they take it to market.
Exactly. You know? So now I can tell if anything's happening like that, or if it's just shittily growing or whatever. It's like quick little squish, and everybody's been doing it. You got a hair straightener and a clamp.
The chatters, I think, are trying to call, chilling like a villain, saying BS.
What
on
BS on what?
I think it was the rosin claim, maybe.
That is not BS. That's what's his name was involved with Shadrach Kane and other people.
When was this?
This was I don't know, quite some time ago, like 10 years ago or something.
10 years ago. There you go. Not going back to it. We're going 10.
Marcus had him on. Had the guy on Hash Church.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so the guy's been on Hash Church. It's well documented that's where the term rosin came from. Is from this particular guy over on the island. His name's Chad, I think. He's a frisbee golfer guy. That's how I know him. And he was part of the used to be part of the Victoria club that Phil Lucas had, and that's who came up with it. So
there you go.
There's an old Hash Church episode with him on there. They can check out somehow.
There you go, rosin.
Well,
so bullshit on you, mister, whoever that is.
Rosin.
That's funny.
Boom.
I called. I've been like called out on how I've called this like amazing because I made the Death of BHO video, and you know what? It was just amazing. I learned it from Soil Grown
People
Sal.
got very offended about that.
And you know what? I was like, this is the Death of BHO, and I did a video on it, and people got offended on it. But I mean, after 500,000 hits and doing the T-shirt pressing, and we had the shoulder press, we had the leg press on, and Brian's laughing. Brian, you got to go. But we did this like on at Prairie Harvest Cup. We had Stu Block on stage. We had Gibson from Gibson Glass, myself, and I was using the clamp. Everybody was using the knee or the shoulder. I was hurting my shoulder. I had a broken neck, so I put a clamp on that sucker. Like the second day, I was like, I can't do this. And you know, it's amazing how far it's came. And you know what? Finally, someone put the hair straightener and the clamp together.
Well, doesn't Walmart have a rosin press now?
Yeah, Walmart's got a rosin press. Like, I mean, come on, this is why we're moving forward, right?
It says rosin press.
Yeah. I've been hearing about it like crazy. Walmart's got a rosin press now. Yeah, go to Walmart, like $500 to $700.
Get a rosin press,
right? I mean, I don't know. Is it? Is it like electric? Or you need a pump?
It's like the crappiest one you can get.
How much is it?
I'm pretty sure it's only like $200.
Yeah, $289.
$289. Well, for $320.
But apparently it's not the greatest quality.
Well, you know what? It's all
shit.
It's all shit. Well, you know what? But that's just goes to see and how education, how cannabis has come this far. They're actually selling rosin presses at Walmart. I mean, I remember when I found this little great plastic container, and I said I was going to make it a household name, my medicine, with a plastic container. And over the years, we're seeing legalization. We're seeing things things progressing so quickly, so fast. How corporations and governments and the money's moving and greed. Things are moving forward.
And whole communities and industries.
We talk
and
about
everything,
redefining and how the world's changing and so quickly. It's so fast. It's like if you're on that wave, how's the things are going?
If you don't like cannabis, you're not going to like the future.
You're not going to like the future if you don't like cannabis.
Exactly.
100%. Because I mean, the future is cannabis. It's creating jobs.
I think it could go either way.
It's a medicine.
Cannabis has risen up in past times and then been totally suppressed. And it's going to take effort. It's going to take.
With the kids,
I don't know, man. It's like looking
with the
pretty
kids
rough
with
down the
epilepsy
States
and everything that we're seeing. You know what? I really believe that we finally have gotten to that step.
I think that one of the things that could happen in Canada is if they don't pass legalization before the next election, that it's a lost opportunity. And what could easily happen is Trudeau's lost his credibility in a big way with a lot of people. And then the NDP has a shining new candidate who's gaining in popularity and will get a lot of the pop vote and a lot of the left-wing vote. And then the Conservatives could come right back up the middle again and just throw it all out the window. Yeah. So we've got to be vigilant that doesn't happen. And same thing in the States, man. It could go south real quick, with the federal government. It's like these ideologues. We just don't know what they're capable of.
No, we're not.
It's true.
So we gotta make our reality happen.
I think that your point about the conservatives is one that's not really being recognized really by anybody. At this
I'm
point.
worried, some pot activists could even, out of goodwill, do something that stalls up the process, maybe some sort of court action or something like that, stalls it up. And
No, I think we should let it go through.
we got to get this law passed before the next election. And even if it's
might
bad,
suck, but it's better than-
even if it's bad, it's going to be good. That day will be a good day, and then we will have our work cut out for us after that in making it a much more realistic and better law. But if it doesn't go, we got very close to legalizing in 2003, 2004 here in Canada, and then there was a scandal with the Liberal government and Paul Martin, and they didn't get in. Then we had 8 years of Harper. We reversed.
We did get legalized. We got legalization for patients. We did get a medical thing that was
well, we
passed.
got legal.
So we got some.
We didn't get that through the government though. We got that through the courts.
Courts, of course, yeah, that's true.
They fought tooth and nail. They fought tooth and nail for
You're right. They had to create the program in 2003, but they fought tooth and nail through Parker. And
they're still fighting. Now they want to take it over after fighting for years. They're going, okay, you're right, but it's ours.
Yeah, and then trying to put it between provinces and monopolization. What David was talking about, how
I know that's sick and
being
twisted.
supplied and stuff like that. So it's going to come into a place where if I want. Yeah, it's a whole new system, and you know what? Hopefully
I have videos to play about this subject.
Oh.
We're gonna get into all that.
I got to
stuff.
pay
We should.
parking. I didn't even do this today. I just really screwed that
And
up.
also, here's the Rosinier. Check it out. There
Oh.
it is. Dun, dun, dun. That's the Walmart Rosinier.
The Rosinier. There you go.
The Rosinier by Walmart.
Wow, what a.
It's got a little face on it, kind of.
It does. It looks like a happy guy. Hello, I'm the Rosinier.
Oh, pressure
So is that
rosin.
Canadian or American for $2.99?
He looks really happy.
Yeah.
It's $2.99 American.
$2.99 American.
Yeah.
So you're looking at $3.90 Canadian plus shipping and taxes. You're about just over $4.20.
Yeah, there you go.
I would like to say
Perfect.
$4.20 if they nailed that one, because you know what,
Perfect.
like
Oh,
Walmart is
speaking
selling
of
a
parking.
$2.99 rosin clamp press.
Yeah.
You're on the parking too?
Yeah, speaking. I just.
Yep,
my
we're getting
parking
parking. I'm on the same thing.
We've been-
Past
been
that
in here
joint.
for 2 hours.
Packing some stuff up. Brian?
So yeah.
throw your
So
meds
Kris,
in.
is there anything else that before we we're
throwing med
before we
tanks.
let you go here, before we get into other stuff about the article? I guess people should just check it out.
Yeah, just check it out and give it a read. And you can pre-order Libre 420 on Amazon, or you can find my last book there, Cannabis and the Soma Solution. And yeah, that's about it, man.
There you go, Kris Bennett. Thanks for everything, man. Really
Cheers,
appreciate
brothers.
it. Always
Peace, Kris.
Slice.
It's always
fun.
great listening to talk. You know what?
He knows,
It's always
he knows his
shit.
stuff.
Out of anybody I've known ever, this guy knows what he's talking about. He educates the masses.
The book is. Let me get the title here.
And you can probably pick this one up. Is it on Amazon? That's the question.
His
If
new
not,
book, Chris's new book isn't done yet. Kris, when's the new book coming out?
ooh, couple months.
Is he already gone? Oh, we didn't get the date. The new book isn't out yet, but we should have asked the date. New book's coming out in April. In time for 420?
420.
Beautiful.
There you go.
So, yes. Chris's new book, Libre 420.
Libre 420.
And what's the subtitle? I have it here somewhere. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, I was going to show you this. Check this out.
What?
This is pretty cool. So, the rosin press.
Yep.
But I don't know if I can be able to show this on Pod TV, but check this out. See these oils? See how that one's clear? Mm-hmm. See how that one's degraded? Mm-hmm. So
You can show that off. Here, look.
Let's show this off, guys. Okay, so what you have here is you have an oil, and both of them are in jars. One has an oxygen absorber and one doesn't. And one has more or less gone amber and the other one is still clear. So these are just new products that are coming out in order to keep cannabis more fresher, longer, to give it its longevity so it's not degrading in jars or anything like that. So this is more of an oxygen absorber. So this is being able to preserve cannabis and give it a longer life, a longer shelf life and shipping and stuff like that. So these are new products that are coming on the market from big companies as legalization is approaching. Bigger and bigger companies that are already in the fields working with meats and vegetables and in the industries are now moving into the forefront. We're starting to see that, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a different type of legalization, but we're seeing one that's geared towards more or less jobs, education, freshness. I mean, if I'm getting it legal, shouldn't it be fresh? Shouldn't all these things play in a factor?
Of course.
Pretty cool stuff, though. Isn't that cool, though? You see how that it's definitely. I saw that. I got it this morning. I showed you. I showed Brian. So now you guys have all seen it too, which is pretty awesome. So we're seeing some cool stuff coming out.
On the cutting edge here, Johnny.
Cutting edge. Well, it's not cutting edge. I'm always about keeping it fresh, and I need standardized medicine for my condition. Everybody knows I'm a medical patient, and what I go through, and what I need daily. And I really realize that this guy here has got all the goods, Brian, but the terpenes and the freshness, and that's why I squish every day.
And here's Kris's book on Amazon. The new book, Libre 420, Cannabis, Magical Herbs, and the Occult. Available for $24.98. There it is. But it's not out till April 20th.
Are you completely moving in,
2018. Mr. Cookie.
Mr. Cookie.
And that's on Amazon.com. Try Prime, it says. Try Prime. Mr. Cookie Man.
Hey, everybody.
What's going on? You don't have a microphone. Get that man a microphone. There he is.
Brian's got his microphone.
Hello.
I think I had to run and pay for parking. It's really pathetic here.
I think it's working now.
Yeah, it's on now.
Hi, Mr. Cookie. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Getting nice and high.
I'm nice and high, sitting over in the corner
stoned.
there.
Yep, you've been chilling for a while here.
I'm interested in this solventless solution here we got on the table.
Solventless solution. I like that, Brian.
Yep.
I'm thinking.
Rosin. So what about, here's the thing, it's solventless, but what about the parchment paper? Is there some chemicals on the parchment paper?
Well, actually, you know what? I've gotten
squeeze
some
it-
pretty good emails from the people who make the parchment paper stating that no, I did some testing on my machine once, and I saw stuff floating in the methanol. Turns out that was more of the fats and lipids, because of course, So we learn things as we progress and move forward. So
You don't think so, Mr. Cookie? You don't think there's any...
I don't know. There must be something with some different types of parchment paper.
You know what? I would say
I'd
that
shy
certain
away from
waxes,
others, and I might pro
What's that
others.
stuff? It's silicone on there that makes it like...
The qualine or whatever it is.
Yeah, what is that?
I don't know.
How good
it's
is
some
that
sort
for
of
you?
chef paper.
Some sort of
It's
product
what's
made by
used,
DuPont.
it's used in all of the chefs. I mean, my friend who is a chef and works in the industry and is a teacher and stuff like that, they all use they use chef paper. And it's a parchment because it can go to all temperatures and stuff like that. It's food safe. It has to be. So you know what? If anything does break down, it's made with rice or something. I got a little email from these guys, and you know what? And all in all, said and done, I mean, it's safe in a lot of stuff.
Chilling like a villain in the chat says you can see the silicone peel up.
There's no silicone.
Wax paper, which a lot of
Yeah.
people
Yeah, don't
Yeah,
use wax
and you really got to
paper.
get a parchment and a wax paper.
parchment paper and
Yeah.
use that for all.
Wax paper versus parchment paper?
Definitely.
No
I
wax
think
paper.
Chilling Like a Villain is off on that one, maybe? I don't know. Maybe. I'm sure he knows the difference between parchment and wax paper. But
Well, you can see stuff, I guess.
Well, you know what?
on
You know
some
what? It's,
parchment paper, yeah.
it's honestly, it's really going to come down to the end user, the person, and then the research that they do upon the product that they're using. And if you don't feel comfortable with it, then don't use it.
he uses silicone-free drawing parchment, he says.
That's pretty awesome.
That sounds like legit product.
That sounds legit.
There you go.
Yeah, where can we get that stuff?
Chilling Like a Villain. Where
JB,
you get
everybody's going on the haircut. You know what? Like,
I went on about it too.
They say it's an alt-right haircut.
it's just the way things work.
No left,
One
all
of those
right.
bro-Nazis. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you're going to use something that's bad for you, and it's going to smell like, yeah, wax paper ain't gonna work. I've seen some parchment papers that I don't like at all. I just don't like how it breaks down. Terpenes break it down. You've used this with the raw parchment and stuff like that.
Just for
Terpenes break
storage, you can tell.
For storage, you can tell. So Brian's done the same thing. So there's ways of being able to look. I see that even with silicone containers, they store with oil and give it 3 months. The oil soaked into the container itself. So it's depending on what you know.
We
what?
should come
There's
up
so
with a
much
rosin
research.
parchment, and we can sell it to Walmart.
Right?
Walmart will sell it with their rosin press. And you can
Walmart
get it.
needs
It'll like pop
Walmart
up below
needs a
on
rosin
the
clamp.
whoever bought this also bought section. You know?
Tons of parchment.
Yeah.
Rosin paper.
Johnny, can you pass me that Snapple that's over there? I believe that belonged to me. I'm thirsty.
Dropped some stuff in there earlier.
In the Snapple?
No, nothing.
What are you dropping in my drink?
No, I mean, yeah. Pot
Not
TV
that liquid
parchment.
mushrooms, is it? Yeah.
I'm going bald. Well, of course, I'm getting old. My birthday's coming up. You know, what do you think I am? Young? Think I've been just like freshly bred? Come on.
Oh.
I've had this receding hairline my whole life.
Now you're just running with it.
No, I'm just working with it.
What?
Yeah,
You have long...
ignoring it. It
Your hair's
works.
not receding.
Yeah,
you
you know what?
talking about?
Exactly. You know, like shit. Got a little gray hair in
My
here
hair's
now.
been the same. It looks like it's receding, but it's always been like that. It's really thick.
Oh, we got to show off the glow.
a little glow in the
glow
dark.
tainer.
Glow tainer.
Glow tainers.
Let's see the
These
glow
work-
tainer.
These definitely work. So these are med tainers that are glow in
Yeah,
the
let's
dark.
see. The glow tainer.
Right now we have a little black light in there.
We have
charging it.
glow in the dark toker pokers and glow in the dark med tainers. And no, I
Where'd you get
don't
that little black
have
light?
lots of them, and they're very limited. And they're
I
just.
got it when I
kinda
bought
like-
some psychedelic T-shirts that had like black light responsive, so you can kind of like write with them.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Where
it's
was
a
that?
big
Shambhala
keychain.
or something?
It was
Oh,
actually
hey.
at Shambhala.
It was a Shambhala.
It was
That's
a
a
Shambhala.
Shambhala.
Good call.
Shambhala is the bomb. Ow, I think I burned myself. That's cool. That's the glow tainer.
Glow tainer. Glow tainer's new.
And show off that laser beam.
Oh.
Or that black light. That's cool. Does that work on like Illuminati? Nice.
Yeah, anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you had a little piece.
Do you
or
have any of
whatever,
those? Where do you get those? Are they for sale? Can I wholesale them?
We'll get you a line on them.
Can I get distribution on that stuff? Is it what?
Well, they gave me that and some laser too, so the laser was cool.
Probably here.
Sticks it in his
Hey,
eye.
here's another thing we brought into question: is heating your bangers up so hot when they're red. You know, why do you think glass blowers wear glass? Wear certain numbers and certain shades of glasses for blowing glass, for heating up glass, and heating up your banger red hot and staring at it is definitely doing some damage.
Ooh, like
I've done
retina
some
damage.
research on it. I've been talking about it and stuff like that. I've talked to some blowers, of course.
Well, you know some glass blowers.
Fiance girl, the woman that I am in love with.
That's
she's
right.
a glass blower, and we talked all about lenses dealing with when she's blowing glass and what types and heating up quartz and how bad it is for your eyes, turning that quartz red and staring at it. And we're not doing it once or twice a day. Come on, so we're just doing it solid. We're all doing it, right? So,
Do you really think it makes that much of an impact? Like, I don't know.
well, but do you think it's that
Apparently, even
staring
if
at the sun?
A toilet flushing is past the decibels it takes. That
But even
hearing
if you stare at the sun.
Actually enough to impact you? Yeah, but
Toilet
still,
flushing?
I could honestly say, I've sat there and stared at it, and I think about it now. It's like, oh, you sit there because it is red. Is it doing some damage? Well, once again, when you're on the torch and you're blowing glass and that glass is red hot, if you were doing that with just your eyes, you would slowly go blind.
But
Right.
construction workers wear
We wear here and we wear glasses.
but every
Have
time
to.
you flush the toilet, there's enough decibels you're getting hearing.
So we're talking about
Well,
toilets
that's-
over here.
Slowly go deaf from-
That's not the same thing.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying. It just seems like it probably only a very
Confused.
minor amount of damage.
Well, I'm just saying.
So staring at the
so
bowl.
you know what? Don't stare at the bowl like this. Come on,
I
just
like
back it
looking
up
at
to
it.
12 inches, and we're going to talk about distance. Just back it up.
Just don't look
Yeah.
at the torch. Isn't
Just
it?
back
That's
it
the
up.
part- Isn't
You
that the
shouldn't
bad
be
part?
lighting a torch that close to your face anyway.
I burned my hair yesterday.
Look, his hair's shorter now.
Why?
So you know what?
that little-
I'm just. I don't. Hey, that's not.
The
See,
ruffle.
I can do a lot of things with the hair now.
Nice.
Okay, so it's,
Oh, it is an all right cut.
There you go. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
multifunctionable.
Yo.
it's definitely multifunctional.
You want to go
It
to a
can,
rally after the show? I
can
got
do
my
all
swap.
kinds
So you can make it go left or
I
right.
don't know. I'm done.
Left or
We're
right.
done with the hair. talking about cannabis. You know,
He's a flip flopper.
I'm actually using hemp shampoo. I found
This
the
week he's
only
left,
hemp shampoo.
that week he's right.
I've been searching high and low for it. I used to get it from KDK. So he was awesome, Kelly. He had the best hemp shampoo on the market there. And
And look, we can tell her you're using it every day.
Flushing. It's just a funny.
I don't even know what-
She
it's
did
'cause I'm
actually say
backwards, I
that.
don't
She
do
did.
that anymore.
Hearing damage, but it's not
You get hearing damage from the toilet?
Yes, I actually did that.
Hearing damage from
That's
the
a loud
toilet.
ass
Earplugs.
So if you while on
You
the
need earplugs
toilet,
on
you
the
should
toilet.
smoke
Maybe
a
on the
joint to help with the
airplane.
hearing damage.
Yeah.
Airplane one.
They explained what decibels hit damage, and they gave examples at different points. And toilet is like pretty much right at the point. The average standard toilet flushing is right around the point that your ears get damaged. So something like a bus driving past, you're actually getting a lot of hearing damage.
We should sample that
We should wear
You're not
earplugs.
going deaf
Yeah,
unless
definitely
you're-
need
just
earplugs.
wear earplugs.
Always.
in the toilet. Yes.
Everywhere.
Sorry guys, I'm like
Everywhere.
slowly packing up for my parking that ran out 7 minutes ago.
You just do it on your phone, bro.
Oh shit! I didn't do it on my phone.
I forgot.
I forgot too.
I know. Stop.
Both you guys.
I'm doing mine
I
right
do,
now.
I do have dinner too down the street.
It's like you guys are new to this, just parking
Well, you're
downtown.
shipping out, are you, Johnny?
I'm shipping her out.
Shipping out.
Shipping out.
I still got a lot of videos to play here.
I know you're playing videos. That's why when you start playing videos, I can go pay for parking.
Oh, nice.
See,
Are you coming back?
I might.
Oh, you should.
I should try.
Don't let him pack up then.
Because we still got a lot to talk about.
And rosin you can
Yeah,
press.
I have.
Yeah, don't even pack up. Just leave your shit. He's trying to.
He is
trying
like packing
I-
up.
I do-
He's
I
like,
do
oh, I'm
have-
not packing up.
I do have a 7:00 dinner at Osaka's, which is over the Broad Street Bridge. We're supposed to meet around 6:30, 6:45. So I'm now looking at time and how things are progressing. And I love you
You
guys.
don't have much time left.
And you're gonna
but
see me again like
Yeah.
next time. It's not like I've gone anywhere. I'm not going anywhere like
might
until
never
like
see you
maybe
again.
He's
March.
gone. Life's
Yeah.
short, Johnny.
That's
Jesus,
right. We
life
might
is
never
short.
see you again here.
Yeah.
We so rarely get to see you. You're actually ghostly.
Why don't you come over and visit me? I mean, like, why? Is, like, Brian stops by and says hi.
Stop
Does
by.
he?
Yeah.
Yeah, about every 3
I
months.
don't know what planet you live on.
You know, I only live like 40 minutes from town.
Where do you live?
Yeah.
Water rabbits for
in the Fraser Valley.
White.
In the
Rift.
Fraser
Like
Valley.
40 minutes. 42 minutes.
42 minutes.
A good joint.
It is 42 minutes to the warehouse.
What's the place?
My warehouse is up Mount Lehman. We're gonna have a glass
what-
gallery set up pretty soon through Lethal Glass. You're gonna have a gallery set up upstairs and have some stuff set up. Hopefully, you know, in a few months, we'll definitely coming soon. There's some pretty cool
I'm gonna
stuff. She's
come-
been working on the torch. It's really
Come visit
can't.
you
I'm gonna.
soon.
I'm not. I took some pictures and I got in trouble. So some new stuff coming up from her. Of course, creative minds can do amazing things, right? So.
It's a great space anyway.
We make art, and yeah, that
There's
would be
liquid
water,
in there.
liquid water,
Water?
water.
Why do you put water in there?
Well, because
Liquid water. Wow.
uh,
Never seen
the
that
whole
before.
thing is I might need a water, and this is just the amount of water from my pipe.
Oh,
So-
for your pipe.
Oh.
And it's airtight, watertight.
Johnny's thinking.
And so it doesn't leak out of there at all?
Depending if I compromise the lid, I might have pushed on that. But yeah, he's like,
There you go.
Kinda.
Oh.
Compromised.
Uh-oh.
Compromise the lid.
Airtight,
You can see
watertight. I don't know.
old things.
Airtight at least.
But you know what? Definitely, we'll have to do. We'll have to get on, and we'll have to do some resin seeking one day on the show, and have people bring in their bud and see if we can see what they got.
Is
Or
that
even
what you were
just their
doing on this
resin.
one?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
what we're doing. We're
What'd
just
you do with that
squishing.
Did it
rosin?
pass?
It's,
I
well,
laughed.
here's Brian's. Here's the one.
Oh, that's
Why
good.
didn't we smoke any of that?
You did.
Did we? Is that what we were smoking?
There's
Jesus.
still this much
was gonna
left.
say.
Oh, it's epic.
It smelled good when I. Is that same stuff?
Oh, that's a sweet skunk.
Can we?
That's a sweet skunk.
Sweet
That's
skunk.
gonna go in the fridge. See how terpy it
Can I
is.
smell it?
Terpy
You know what I'm
Irpy.
talking about.
Let me smell it.
Terptown.
Yeah, it's terptown, so it's hard to come off the parchment, as you can
smell it.
see. So you gotta put this in the fridge to kind of gum it up. Brian's doing the nod.
Terptown.
You gotta even talk about that. It's not too many people realize. You know, it's just like put that shit in the fridge. a
Holy
little
mother!
Yeah, or else
Yeah,
they just try to scrape
Wow.
it off, and that might compromise the parchment
bit. Exactly.
paper.
That's what
being
happens. They
like-
compromise the parchment by scraping it too much.
Yum.
Yeah.
That's some tasty
serious?
tasties. That's tasty.
So Brian's gonna deal with that.
We'll deal with that tonight.
Yeah, he'll definitely. He's like, I'm keeping that stuff. You gotta
so-
play some videos. We were talking
Well,
about.
we were talking about
Yeah.
Ontario
Oh, here's
because
more
they're coming up
weed
with
right
these
here,
crazy ass rules.
Cap.
You know, like millions of dollars in fines for people.
Yeah, that's completely ludicrous.
And $250,000 fines for individuals if you're selling.
I know, it's crazy, these fines.
That is some fucked up shit.
I read the number and was like, oh yeah, and then I went back and was like, what the
How in the world do they
It is our government.
How are they going to get away with this? So it makes me livid listening to them in these videos that I'm about to play for you guys. So I'm sure you're going to share our anger on this. These are just...
You're going to share your anger?
They're so infuriating, these
Free
fucking
anger.
politicians. They make me so mad. Let's see here. Yes, global, Ontario.
Global.
Steep
Watch these
fines.
Where did these come from?
Steep fines, global. Let's play this one.
There's not even a guy there. Never mind. From a guy.
Here
All
it is.
around here.
Here we go. Check this one
They're made with
out.
rock.
Oh, Blue Shore Financial.
Goals makes all the difference.
Everyday wealthy. It's a higher
When you're
standard of
everyday wealthy,
financial
you carry a
advice, one
boat.
that puts your best interests first.
Look how happy she looks.
Be richly valued.
That's because she uses Blue Shore Financial. Here you go.
Customer favorite.
Hindu Kush, El Jefe, Organic Blue Dream. Just a few of a bewildering variety of pot strains and pot products that the modern pot retailer has to master.
The staff that work here with us have varied backgrounds, so we find that alone brings a wealth of personal compassion that they bring when they're interacting with the patients.
But today, Ontario declared all-out war on thousands of these marijuana sommeliers who work in grey market pot dispensaries.
Let me be clear. These pot dispensaries are illegal and will be shut down.
Ontario's government is muscling into the business and setting up its own monopoly.
We believe we have the experience and expertise to design and implement a safe and sensible retail distribution system.
So Sousa has asked the province's liquor store monopoly, that's the LCBO, to open 40 standalone pot stores by next summer and to have 150 stores open in the province by 2020. By comparison, there are 1,100 government-run liquor or beer stores in Ontario. Now, a top Bay Street economist wrote last year that once pot is legal, Canadians will likely spend more buying recreational pot in a year than Canadians spend on beer. So even though pot may be more popular than beer by 2020, there will be one booze store for every 12,000 Ontarians, but way fewer weed stores, only one for every 91,000. And that's one reason why industry experts say Ontario's plan will never meet market demand, further fueling the black market.
In addition to that, the cost that will be associated to the taxpayers for this rollout we feel could have been shouldered by other organizations and current private stakeholders in the space.
Ontario's government is looking back to the end of Prohibition in 1920 when government-run liquor stores eliminated the need for speakeasies and rum runners. Well, it's nearly 100 years later, and the government is betting on the same approach, that government-run stores will eliminate the need for the unregulated marijuana business. David Aiken, Global News, Ottawa.
Okay, there's the first video. So even that one video starts to infuriate me. We couldn't hear it very loud in here, but.
What? Did I get up just in that time?
Oh yeah, Johnny just left. So say bye, Johnny.
Bye. Bye, Johnny. Bye, guys. You know what? Parking, dinner. Had to come down and say hi.
Look at your rosin chips.
Left some rosin chips behind. Soak those rosin chips in coconut oil. You can keep those suckers. Anywhere from 8 to 13% THC still left in those, so don't throw away your rosin chips. You can. They're already
take them with you then.
They're not decarbed. Like you understand, it's just a small heat press on it. Got to decarb. Takes a little bit longer than like a minute. But on that note,
take them with you.
Puff and pass. Enjoy your evening. Smoke them if you got it. If you don't, find someone that does.
Mr. Cookie, you can sit
see this is how it happens. Brian's gonna move into my spot. Brian should be here weekly.
Yeah,
I think we should have 2 co-hosts. It should be like 3 people helping this guy out. 2.5. See,
2.5.
2.5 co-hosts.
That's right.
Puff and pass.
Uh-oh, there's the belly. There's the half.
Wrong. You on that sucker.
Not that half.
Peace, Pod TV.
Bye, Johnny boy. That's funny. Got the rosin chips. So that was video number 1.
Video number 2.
Video number, ouch. Where is video number 2? So, but wait, before we go, let's go back to video number 1 for a sec there. That is, let's see, there it is. So if we, I wish we could zoom in on that writing. Oh, just got to be away. But it says in there, that's where the $250,000 fines are, and $1 million for corporations that have businesses there. So that's a little
like franchise
scary.
type businesses.
I don't know if that means yeah. Well, our corporation doesn't necessarily run that. We're just a franchise, so we just sell them the name. But hope they don't come looking to us for $1 million.
Be like, oh, come and get this. Like, what? We don't have that.
Sorry, we don't have that.
Put it on our tab.
I don't know what we're gonna do about that.
I don't know. It's scary. But I just read that the other day, and I read the number twice, and was like, what?
It's really intimidating and scary, and I think it's going to make sure that a lot of people close up shop there.
Yeah, they're going to keep their market open because they don't want to have any competition, so they're just like, screw it, we'll wipe everyone out. And
it also says it gives them powers to act quickly to close dispensaries.
Yeah, because they're going to fine them, and then they won't be able to pay the fine in like whatever 30 days or whatever they give them, maybe like a week or something. And then they're like, oh.
That's scary business.
And they involve like city ordinance and bylaw and all that crap.
Yeah, that's not good.
Not good at all.
Not good at all. They're really going to war with us, so. And they mean business this time, and they're really coming after everybody, and it's massive, crazy fines. But how do they enforce those fines even? How do they get that from you? I guess they just make your life hell forever.
Yeah, or they like get the sheriff to come and like put locks on the place or however that would work, and then you're screwed because you can't do business. You know, they might not be able to get the fine money. Like we know people that have fines and stuff that they can't pay. So
yeah, we have lots of fines, but we're not paying nothing. But our lawyers told us not to, so.
Yeah.
So we have a few more now. That was global. Here's CTV. Oh, hello. Look who it is. It's these guys. It's the chat.
Oh, Chattos.
What's up, chatters?
Ottawa. Ontario. Snow there yet?
Hope that you guys are okay out there. You're going to have your government weed stores. Ugh. What a terrible
and Hamilton's
thing
getting a shop, I read.
Is it the other one? Okay, which one here? That one. That's the one, isn't it? That's the ticket. So here, we're going to press play, and you guys enjoy getting infuriated at this one, too.
I want to tell you about something wonderful.
From Vegas to
look,
Broadway
more
to
ads. I love
Tokyo,
these.
Famous
Broadway.
People Players has wowed and inspired audiences
Famous
around
People's
the world.
Players.
On stage right now in Toronto.
Wow, that looks
dinner
cool.
theater event so extraordinary.
Big puppets.
You have to experience it to understand it.
Now
Glow-in-the-dark
playing Made in
puppets.
Canada the musical, celebrating
That looks
Canada's
cool.
150th
They have your laser.
It's like nothing you've
That's how
ever
that
seen
happened.
before.
This is a place where special happens.
And she's got
it's
black
waiting
outfits, so her
for
head's
you.
going to be
Proudly
floating around.
sponsored
That's kind of
by
creepy.
Scotiabank.
Person, yeah.
Head floaters.
Kitchener will be one of the
here we
first
go.
Ontario cities to get a standalone LCBO-run pot store ahead of the legalization of recreational marijuana next July. CTV's Krista Simpson has more on this for us. Krista.
Well, Nancy, the list was released this morning. The specific Kitchener location hasn't been chosen yet, but now that the cities have been selected, the process to pick the specific spots will begin. Here's the list of the cities that will start: Barrie, Brampton, Hamilton, Kingston, Kitchener, London, Mississauga, Ottawa, Sault Ste. Marie, Sudbury, Thunder Bay, Toronto, Vaughan, and Windsor. The LCBO explains that their staff, along with staff from the Ministry of Finance, will meet with staff in each city to discuss guidelines in the process of deciding exactly where to put each store. Already, they have promised stores won't be close to schools. Once a site has been chosen, then they will let the public know online and at the actual site. Then people can come forward with questions or comments before everything is finalized. The stores will sell dried and fresh cannabis, cannabis oil, and cannabis accessories. No edibles at this point. Now, today's announcement is expected to be the first of many. The plan is for Ontario to have 40 standalone cannabis stores by next July, eventually growing to 150 by the end of 2020. You'll also be able to order pot online. Nancy.
In the newsroom.
Yeah, crazy.
As stupid as they're going to be. Sudbury.
The amount, they're just not going to be able to meet demand. Like people, it's like 1 to 90, one store to every 90,000 people. Like, that's not going to work.
Like all these shops in Toronto right now have lineups like out the door most of the days. Or at least to the door.
I got goodies.
He's eating.
They're delicious. Thanks, Carly.
You're welcome.
But here, I wanted to read the list. Where is the list here?
I don't know.
I'm getting the list. Here it is. So that was about Kitchener for some reason. I guess that was just the local video. Oh, thank you. Coca-Cola. Ooh, in a bottle. See, this is the only way you can really drink Coca-Cola is in a glass bottle. So good.
Pretty much any
You say
soda.
that even though you drink it out of 2 liters, cans.
I do the boil-ins out of a bottle. Same thing.
God damn, is it good. So there's 14 cities that are up to get the stores first in Ottawa or in Ontario before anybody else. And those cities are Barrie, Brampton, Hamilton, Kingston, Kitchener, London, Mississauga, Ottawa, Sault Ste. Marie, Sudbury, Thunder Bay, Toronto, Vaughan, and Windsor. Vaughan.
Like those stores in like Sudbury and Thunder Bay, they're going to be busier than the ones like even in Toronto just because...
They're like the more remote locations.
Well, they're not even used to like, I don't even know if there's dispensaries in those locations. I know there's none in Sudbury. Like a couple of people tried to open them and they got shut down. And people love weed there, so it's like...
There would be dispensaries anywhere by the time they start opening up, apparently.
No, yeah.
Look who it is.
Opus.
The joint rolling machine.
Opus, and the joint rolling machine himself.
Use the machine.
I am a machine. That's me.
You kind of look like one. You look like a Terminator right now.
Yeah, joint Terminator.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Hasta la vista.
I'll be back. I'll roll more.
Yeah,
I'm gonna roll more.
I'll be back to roll joints.
No, I'm just finishing up my day, my week.
Nice.
I'm out of here.
You roll a lot of joints this week, Opus?
Yeah, over 2,400.
A lot of people will be smoking them joints.
We definitely are past 20,000 sparked.
Nice. Over 20,000
Over 20,000 sparked.
And you guys put them into these things.
I've never seen that before in my life.
I don't know where they go after me.
That's right. They come out of a machine and they just vanish.
These ones are...
I thought they just got smoked.
Potion. That Love Potion. These ones are like probably some of the best joints we've ever had. The Love Potion joints. They burn so beautifully. My God. I love that Love Potion so much. It's just some of the nicest cannabis.
I was just spinning some of that up on the tray, and as I'm making them, I got a big tray of it in front of me, and it's like, this just smells wonderful. Like just to sit with a big tray of.
It's refreshing.
It's like aromatherapy.
It is.
I wish we could send them to people in the mail. You know, I wish we could send these boxes home to all y'all out there.
Well, maybe once legalization happens, that could be a thing.
If we win this court case.
Well, I have to laugh about Ontario.
Yeah.
I just, it seems to be that I think it's going to be such a stark difference to what BC's going to do.
Mm-hmm. I sure hope so.
Oh, yeah. BC's
well, that'll just show the criticism, though. Like, if BC's model works well, it'll just be heaping more onto the fact that Ontario government is full of shit. These guys have not a leg to stand on. Mm-hmm. But I was looking at, recent articles in the news in the morning and stuff, and I'm like, I'd be going down to if there's any lineups and start selling weed there. The best places to sell weed are going to be in, within a 2-block radius of these stores.
Yeah.
The store next door.
The store, pretty much. No, not even a store. Just wander around. Say, yeah, go around the back. There's a buddy of mine. He's got a van or like. There's going to be so many, like a bicycle. So many ways people are going to undercut this. They'll have better weed.
Especially if it's cheaper.
Like well, this is what I'm talking about. The price will be better, and the weed will be as good or better.
Yeah.
And that's how you undercut someone.
Yeah, there's no love in government weed.
The whole thing that kills me is
it's going to be garbage.
They talked about getting rid of the black market, and then they do the exact thing that fuels the black market.
Well, the price
makes
point,
no sense.
they have that high price point, so I'm just like, well, I can get weed cheaper from my buddy down the street. I'm not going to go there and spend $10 a gram.
Well, not only that, but go where? You might have to go it's a half-hour bus ride or across town. Like,
yeah, exactly.
This is the other thing, or you're gonna have to log in somewhere and wait.
Just such bullshit.
Nobody's gonna want that.
No.
And those of us who have been in this game for as long as we have, we know this. You know, we know exactly what happens. What happened? Here's a question for you. What happens if your one of your custodies calls you twice, like 2 different occasions, and you're out both times?
They're probably find someone else.
They're not your customer. They don't call you a third time because they found somebody else. Exactly.
Oh, they're just the black market will thrive once again, and it'll be big and huge. I mean, it already is thriving. It's massive. I mean,
no, but this is fueling the black market. It's the exact opposite of what they say. Oh, we're going to try to fight the black market. We want to. Well, to do that, you got to start well, maybe let more people grow weed for starters. Like, stop this worrying about this growing thing. Yeah. They are worried about all the things that are right back to prohibition and what fueled black market in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true. It's wrong. No.
Well, by keeping the price up high, the black market's just going to continue to thrive, and then they're going to have more. They're going to spend more money on like policing the private grows and the reselling and stuff, and they're going to look at that now as like big crime as opposed to what people do now, because they're still like, oh, we want our police budget, we want our budget for this.
Yep.
Well, yeah, exactly. You know, and if they don't spend money, they don't get it next year. It's hard to ask for more money if they don't spend the money they've been given.
It's like the lemonade stand.
You know, so, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, they're under pressure to use up those funds, and now they're taking tools away from them that allow them to essentially blow cash, spend more money. So the whole concept is, isn't one of the reasons, another reason of legalization was to save money. So here they are increasing budgets, throwing good money after bad. You know, how much was the ad campaign? $31 million or something for ad campaign, education. I mean, really. We know what we've all seen from their government ad campaigns. They're usually made a mockery of.
Oh, they're
and they increase, and they've been shown in some cases to actually increase usage.
Oh, of course, that's why they're doing it. That's the way they can get away with advertising. But it's like, kids, marijuana's bad, but we're opening all these stores.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
now open in Scarborough.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna have to have their own bootlegger laws and stuff for the marijuana.
Ding, ding, here's the new store in your town. Yeah. Like, what the fuck? It's just so twisted. It doesn't even make sense, but it's actually hilarious.
Yeah, and then it's just going to be legal after that? Like, all of a sudden it's legal now? It's good? Once these stores open, you can just go and buy it?
And everybody's going to be growing it.
Wow. Or they should be all growing it.
Well, yeah. And you're going to be allowed to grow 4 plants yourself at your home, right? So.
And the height restriction's been tossed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was stupid.
But there's a lot of rumblings that a lot of places are saying we want to take and right out altogether. No home growing, no home growing. I've been hearing some rumblings.
Like city bylaws and stuff. Yeah.
Lots of different things. Happen. So yeah, they're going to want to so. Again, it's be like, good luck. We're going to throw a few plants up. The federal law says.
Well, the federal law will say, and then all the city bylaws can't people fight it all the way, which is good. It'll have to be fought probably.
So something that just came to mind for
Carly
me.
Marley.
Hi.
How are you,
as
Carly?
a former Ontario resident, I can't help but think about the LCBO lines. And there's already a lot of stores, as was clarified, but still, there is always the craziest lineups. You know it's going to be, even if you just want to get one thing, you're probably going to be there for half an hour. And if you're going to be going on like a Friday or Saturday night, if you go in within an hour to close, you're going to be spending pretty much until that hour's up waiting in line, even at the biggest stores with all of the tills going. So even with all of the alcohol stores, they're still not meeting a demand. And I'm just thinking about how atrocious those lines I used to have to wait in like at the LCBO were. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like when they open those 40 stores.
I hope they're lined up around the block because it'll be easy to sell weed in the line that way.
Just hand out a card.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, if there's lineups all over the place, you'll be just wandering around. Who needs weed? Who needs weed? It'll be like no more line. Just buy for me. Take off, man. Express line.
That's a funny
And their
idea.
weed's not going to be good,
That's
so
a
I don't
good
know
idea.
what that's going to happen. Half the people won't care, and half the people will.
if there was a place where I could go somewhere else, whether it was like my friends or somebody who I knew, where I could get a bottle, I would rather go there than ever go to the LCBO. I always avoided the LCBO, and I'm sure it's going to be the same thing. Even
these government
aside from the
assholes, they're
activist
like, "We think we-"
boycotting.
What? Sorry, say that again.
I was saying, even aside from the activist boycotting this model, I think there's going to be a lot of people who are just gonna avoid it, like as many people avoid the LCBO model as possible. I buy my wine from the wine rack when I'm in Ontario because I'd rather go to the grocery store and have the smallest selection imaginable as opposed to wait in line at the big, huge government.
I think there'll be a lot of first timers going.
First timers will go,
and they're going to go, oh, it's legal. I'm going to go. I'm going to
good.
check. What's this all about? I'm going to check it out. Yeah,
The
there's a
people
lot
at
of
the liquor
curiosity.
store-
My
people
mom
at
and
the liquor
dad.
store don't know shit about wine or anything. They don't know anything, and the people at these stores will not know anything about cannabis.
When I asked at the LCBO for a hoppy IPA, they took me to the Alexander Keith's. So
I
See, I don't
think
even know what that
it'll
is.
be interesting to ask. Somebody else mentioned, like, go in and ask, like, you know, what it's about terpene profiles.
Like
and
what's anything? Does
all
it burn
ki-
good?
Yeah. Well, what strains does that cross with? And
They're
so-
just like, no, that's weed
They're gonna
A
be like,
and B.
oh yeah,
and
there's really
C.
good stuff over there on the shelf. It's called Tweed.
Yeah. Or it'd also be here. You can write the manufacturer for those. That, yeah.
They're like, yeah, they
go ahead.
send us on a little
Infused
trip.
with Monsanto.
Yeah. Yeah, the Monsanto Kush is really good.
Yeah.
They don't use any pesticides.
Agent
on it
Agent
because-
Orange. Well, that's Agent Orange Chronic.
That's a strain. Delicious.
Yeah, love that one.
Yeah, some pretty sad, but I'm gonna play another video here. It just gets worse with these videos. Which one do we watch there? This is the next one. Let's see.
We'll
here.
watch the other one now.
They're all pretty scary. What's going on here? Is it working? Maybe not. Let's see. I don't know. Which one is that one? Province reveals plan. Oh, that's that province one. Let's see. Maybe it's not up. Is that the one? That's the one. There it is.
Those people look like they're on drugs.
They do. She does.
She's like,
Probably are. They've probably been drinking coffee all morning.
a lot of it.
All right, here they are.
Buy
Oh.
recreational
We got
marijuana
closed
are
caption.
one
Turn
step
that off.
closer to
There you go.
becoming official.
The government tabled its plan for pot this afternoon. CTV's Natalie Johnson is in Kensington Market. Natalie, they are still operating, but the province also plans to crack down on illegal dispensaries.
That's right, Ken. The government is promising a proactive enforcement strategy with tough new penalties for anyone who distributes marijuana illegally. It's all part of a bigger plan to ban the use of recreational cannabis in public places. In the Hotbox Lounge in Kensington Market, marijuana users gather to smoke in what they call a safe space. And many of them believe the province's plan to limit cannabis consumption to private homes is the wrong approach.
It's impossible to ask a mother to consume cannabis in her home with her child. It's impossible to ask a landlord who rents out a non-smoking unit to all of a sudden allow consumption in the home.
Banning recreational marijuana use in public places is just one part of the province's plan to regulate the use and sale of the drug when it becomes legal next July.
Doing this in a safe, responsible way means that we put some parameters around the distribution of this substance.
And today, the Ontario Liberals tabled their plan for pot.
The bill proposes restricting youth access to cannabis.
Only adults 19 and up will be able to purchase marijuana, and only at LCBO-operated stores, referred to for now as the Ontario Cannabis Retail Corporation, or OCRC, as the government tries to crack down on illegal pot shops.
We don't know where their product is coming from. We don't know what's in their products. What we do know, that it's almost a $7 billion industry in Canada, and large chunk of that money is going into organized crime.
New and stronger penalties for illegal pot shops will include escalating fines and up to 2 years in jail. Landlords will not be allowed to knowingly lease their properties to dispensaries.
It isn't kind of a Wild West environment where people can just go out and set up any kind of a shop they want.
But back at the Hotbox Lounge, cannabis consumers say the government is over-regulating what will soon be a legal drug.
tobacco can be bought and sold pretty much any corner store. So marijuana should have the same type of rules where it's like you can have it as long as you're responsible with it.
The province says 40 OCRC stores will be ready to sell by the time marijuana is legal next July, with up to 150 stores province-wide by 2020. And when it comes to medical marijuana, the government plans to ban the use of that only in enclosed public spaces, the same places where tobacco use is currently banned. Reporting live, I'm Natalie Johnson-Zoraida. Over to you.
Thank you, Natalie.
Here's your loophole. They're only gonna ban medical marijuana in enclosed public spaces, so you'll be able to smoke them outside if it's medical. So you just got to get your med card, and then you could just smoke outdoors,
outside, anywhere.
Go pick up, walk out like a half a block from the your pot place,
store.
or you pick up and then just like say spark, literally spark right in front of them. Fuck off! It's medical.
Like people do now with medical.
And the other question is, if it's medical and you go to the rec store, do you have to pay recreational taxation, or is there going to be a medical tax? Like, it should be different, right? You think?
Well, no, they're probably still going to have like the LP version model in place, and then you just buy from them and pay your little tax on it, and that'll be cheaper, hopefully, than the recreational pot, or else you'll just go there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or I think I'll just grow my own, or
it's just
see my friendly dealer.
Yeah.
It's until they really legalize what's already there and all the extracts. Like, you won't be able to get extracts at their store. Are they
No, I
gonna
don't think so. No, they'll have like the infused oil and whatever they're allowed to have.
No
not
shatter,
even hash.
no dabbing.
No hash.
No, there'll be no dabbing.
Like
at
the
all.
oil right now or something, and maybe like CO2 oil. Which CO2 oil is all right.
Fail.
They'll have cooking oil.
will be a
They'll have
massive
olive
fail.
oil.
Yeah.
Yeah, infused oils.
And people want to smoke
We
oil.
should boycott them. Fuck their stores.
Well, I'm sure everyone's gonna, but there's just gonna be a lot of people that are like, "Oh, it's legal now. I'm gonna go buy weed." Like, you know, my mom and dad and people like
go
that.
get my tweed weed.
I feel
it'll be like
just because it's a store, you know, and they're not like doing a wrong thing.
There's going to be all these recreational users who are not going to
Like,
be
oh,
exposed
it's not
to
illegal
bunch
now. I
of-
don't have to see a shady guy or whatever. They'll just go and buy weed.
Oh no, lots of people will go.
But they'll realize that the weed's shitty if they try like someone else's weed, probably.
That's what's going to happen is they'll go, oh, okay. So a first timer goes, I'm going to go because it's a store, it's legal.
Yeah.
They check it out. They go, it's all right. I kind of like this. They become a regular. Until that time, they go to a party. And someone says, oh, come here. You're smoking. Oh, man, here, put that away. Check this out. And that's the end of that. There's another convert
this out.
right there.
Those are last
That's what
famous
happens.
words, famous last words.
If once they go there and get their start, then they'll want to socialize. They'll want people, because pot's a social commodity. People, like, they smoke it. They're going, well, this is no fun by myself, so I'm going to invite some buddies over, find some people who smoke. Exactly.
Yeah, old age homes will be a lot funner. Everyone will just be puffing down, being like, right on.
So one thing, though, I can't help but like worry about, though, is we're seeing with the Canada's medical model with the LP system set up the way it is, there's all sorts of dangerous shit getting sprayed on the weed, and all sorts of people are having really, really nasty symptoms show up that are really brutal to live with. And a lot of people are really sick and they don't feel like they have any solution, so they turn to the medical cannabis, trusting in Health Canada that it's going to be something that will help them, and actually makes them really way more sick. And, you know, they have to have that kind of experience where they find people with better stuff and they realize that there is better stuff out there that doesn't have all this nasty negative side effects. I'm genuinely worried for the population in Ontario who's going to be forced to only be allowed to legally smoke LP weed. If that's the way it is, that's dangerous. That's poisoning an entire population of a province. That's fucked up. They should be doing serious investigations into what's going on with these sprays. And anyone who's thinking about going into one of these government stores, think long and hard about what they're possibly putting on it.
Bad. Like they're allowed a whole bunch of pesticides from Monsanto.
That's what I'm saying. The legal stuff is what's so scary.
Right.
If it's the same stuff that's legal right now, I would rather buy this stuff on the black market any day. I trust the stuff on the black market way more than I trust the stuff from Health Canada.
I'm hoping that once these guys get going, you'll see like some of these news stories that go out and sort of look into things. maybe go out and buy some. I'm sure that the media is going to go check it out themselves, going to go buy some. There'll be stories. Oh, this is what it's all about, and But down the road, if people are calling and complaining, and you find out, oh, maybe there's a story, we should buy some and have it tested. And if it turns out that this stuff is completely unfit for human consumption, whoa!
Yeah.
Now we're in, and this is what's going to run into problems. You know how it's going to work. They're going to run into shortages. They're not going to be able to keep up supplies. So they're going to cut corners.
They'll break out the
right
shitty
now,
weed.
I've heard a lot of complaints, not so much about pesticides, but about
even on the
weed
black market.
Weed that's not flushed properly.
Yeah, it'll burn black, and people will not like that at all.
And it's not flushed, and so it doesn't burn. It's not so much the pesticides at this point; it's the fact that it just burns,
the heavy chemicals.
It burns black. It doesn't go. It goes out.
It's the same as Amsterdam weed.
Yeah.
Yeah, like people go to Amsterdam for the first time. They don't know, and they're just like, oh, I can buy weed here legally or whatever. So they go to the coffee shop, buy weed, smoke it. It might burn black, and it might not even burn at all. Like, now it's pretty good, all the coffee shops over the years. But, like, back in the day, it wasn't very good sometimes. You'd be like,
But
this is
if
not
you combine
good.
those two issues, that's really scary, because then you potentially have strains where they put all sorts of chemicals and dangerous shit on it, and they're not even flushing those chemicals out properly. So you're really getting them to their full potency. And this is like, the side effects from this stuff and the myclobutanol are really, really brutal. It's basically like the worst stomach flu you could possibly imagine. Like, people can't go to work because they can't eat any food. They lose tons of weight. And multiple people have come forward saying the only thing that I changed to feel better is I stopped smoking the LP weed. And this is what they're going to be supplying potentially to the Ontario, all of the province of Ontario. No, fuck no. People will realize it makes them sick, and they'll stop going. And if they don't, I'm going to do everything in my power to let people know that it's dangerous shit that they're actually buying from there. Because for the first time, not for the first time, it's happened before, but we're seeing a substance that's never been harmful before, and now the government has tampered with it, and now it is harmful. That's fucked up. That's seriously
Like
fucked
tobacco.
up. Why is our government allowing chemicals to get added to something that isn't harmful, and they're not doing anything about it? They're letting the population get sick and poisoned. That's wrong. That's super wrong, and we should not be supporting stores that follow that model, even for your own health reasons. Not even if you don't care about any of the politics, just don't put that shit in your body, please.
Interesting also to note that
She
I
drops
realized
the mic.
these LPs
Mic drop.
have batch numbers.
Before she goes outside,
apparently.
like,
Oh, yeah, so you can see exactly when it was harvested,
Right.
where, and who.
I'm going to be interested to see how much of this weed they put into these stores. I want to see what, like, some of the dates. Because are they growing a bunch now and stockpiling? Just
in Washington's like
ganky
that.
old weed. So now they might bring weed in next year that they grew this year.
How's
For all-
like 2017 or 16
Yeah,
or
like,
whatever?
who
You're
the
like,
hell-
what?
Who knows? But it's possible,
Harvested.
right? And then it's like, now
They
we're
do have, most of these places do have a large backlog of cannabis. Like, you can look on their social medias and different things, and you see a stock room's filled with cannabis, and I don't think that cannabis is very good. Maybe
No,
some of
it's
it
not
is,
getting
but
any. It's got
there's
a
no
shelf
love to
life. It doesn't get better with age. You know.
And I bet that's the stuff that they turn into their oil in their delicious infused olive oil.
Yep.
Yum.
Well, aren't they selling it overseas and stuff too, or they're like allowed to?
Yeah, they got those contracts and stuff, but I don't know how that works. They're probably like giving them, hopefully, like a normal person would give them the good weed, but you never know. They might just give them the low end.
Bunk. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, we got
this.
Well, they got to get rid of it to somebody, I guess.
Or make oils out of it.
Or make oil, yeah.
And then I think we might see a huge surge in home gardening.
Oh yeah.
I sure hope so. Overgrow the government. That's going to be the next way to do it.
Yeah, if you're thinking opening a
Overgrow-
hydroponics store,
Overgrow
get to
part
her.
2.
But if you don't get your seeds from tweed, then
No,
you can't.
no.
It's legal. It's illegal.
So are they actually going to have, they got rid of the height rule, just throwing this idea. They got rid of the height rule because they realized it was totally arbitrary and it made no sense to go around and have officers knocking on your door with a meter stick. That makes no sense. So instead, are they going to have somebody go in, like take some of your cannabis plant and then go and check its genetics and its terpene
genetically
profile
tested.
and figure out whether or not
doesn't
it's
have
actually
tweed
come
DNA.
from, yeah.
They
And like,
might DNA
are they going
test
to
it.
consider
This doesn't
things
have
like if
Trevor
you
Feezy's
have
DNA
different
inside of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it makes
They
no
mold it
sense.
into the check plant.
It makes no sense. That has to be another thing that they're going to wipe out, because how the fuck can you enforce something like that? Like what? Just arrest anyone who has an unlabeled
They have tags
seed
on them in Colorado. They have little
tags on every plant.
tags on every plant, and the tags have like a chip in them, and like a radio chip that they can.
So, but the seeds do, or the plants do?
The plants do.
Once it
So
grows,
if
they got to put
I could
that
buy
thing
a
on
seed.
it.
I could buy a seed, and it comes with this little tag. And then I could buy a seed from someone who doesn't grow shit seeds. And then I could plant this good seed, and I could just take this tag from the seed I bought from the government and put it on the plant.
I'm not sure how it works exactly.
Yeah, technically that way, but
Well, it just seems like it's going to be something that is silly to enforce.
Counterfeit
It doesn't-
tags.
You know, in Colorado,
throw the other seed in the garbage and then grow that seed, I guess. And how would anybody know? But
It probably works in Colorado because they have a lot of. They're
like,
allowing.
that doesn't look shitty enough to be a tweed seed.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That pot looks too good.
Yeah.
If they want it to work like it does in Colorado in that sense, then they need to allow the expert growers a place in the market like they do in Colorado, because in Colorado they're not forcing them to only buy from one government source.
Yeah, they just started from whatever genetics they could get from everywhere, I think.
Exactly.
I don't know
And then
how
they've
that
kind of, from what I understand, they've kind of added more regulations in as they see fit, as opposed to over-regulating and then trimming regulations back, which seems to make way more sense. But you need to have access to good plants that aren't garbage. So.
Well, let's not forget where Kush came from. And that came from Canada going to Afghanistan. Our military guys brought back the Kush seeds originally. That's where, we can't.
And the hash.
This is true. It's where it all, I mean, that's where all that good Kush came from originally. It was Canadian soldiers coming back from Afghanistan in that part of the world. And I mean, how hard was it as a soldier to bring back a dozen seeds, a handful of seeds?
They can bring back whatever they want.
There's no smell or anything. Pretty simple. They don't really get checked coming back. So I think this is, again, where a lot of this stuff came from. And again, once their soldiers go off to war again, some other part of the country, you watch. Oh yeah, you want seeds? The next strain will be from that part of the world where they come back
like
from.
the Mazar Sharif, they're like, here you go, that's the real deal.
It's happened. It's been happening for decades. It'll happen again. There won't be a shortage. And also, and not to mention just people going and getting seeds on their own and coming back. It's the easiest thing to bring back into the country. I have a bunch of seeds. I brought back seeds from Jamaica. I just balled them up in some of my dirty socks. Threw them in with my laundry.
Dirty sock seeds.
It's like, but really, it's like, even under
I just
X-ray,
stepped
it
on
just
some
looks
seeds.
like dirty socks.
Whoops, I stepped on
That's
a seed.
toe jam.
guess, yeah, if you
Doesn't even show up
put
in an
one in each
X-ray.
sock, and then they
No,
would-
I just had them loose in the socks. Just threw a handful loose in a sock and rolled it up and threw it with my laundry.
Yeah.
Right? It's like no big deal.
Yeah, you
I
could
didn't
get
even
checked,
think about
but, you
bringing
know.
that into the country. Didn't even think twice.
Put them in the lining of your hat.
Well, no, that's where they look. That's where they look at shit.
They do look in there?
Well, no, but that's the kind of place where they go, hey, what's in here? But just jumbled in with your laundry loose is, it could just be bits of gravel and dirt and stuff that you just threw, you know what I mean? Like just debris.
Yeah.
It's literally
True.
debris.
What about getting like a nut mix, you know?
Oh, that would
That's
probably.
smart.
Put them in your nut mix and then...
Make sure that they're unsalted, though.
You're hungry on the plane. Mm.
Whoops.
Hey, they're full of protein, so
I
it
just
wouldn't
thought
be bad
it
for
was in
you.
the mix, man. But yeah, no, it's not hard to get seeds in, and like I say, so you know, I say again, just grow. Don't do what we always do. It's illegal now, and it hasn't stopped us. I mean, it's you know, bad laws will be ignored. We'll continue. We'll fight it in courts. I mean, I'm not even concerned. I'll wake up, smoke
tell
pot.
me what strains I could grow.
A lot of these rules that cops have too, like these obscure laws like height and strain, those are usually tools that they'll use if they're already at somebody's place for other reasons. You know, you're a noise complaint. You're having a wild party. The cops show up. Oh, look, we've got some plants here. Now we've got tools to fucking fuck your shit up.
But
It's like not usually, they don't waste time. Let's go knocking on doors, look for plants. You know,
This isn't
if somebody's
government number
called
5.
and made a complaint, there's usually another issue that it leads up, and it's just a tool in their toolbox that they can use. Like, oh well, we look through the rule. Look, oh, we have a rule here that we can bring up that he's already broken, and yeah, and that's what I think. Other than that, if you're just minding your own business and nobody's calling a complaint, nobody's gonna know whose plants you're fucking growing.
But I think that's still pretty scary, because usually in those kind of situations, like when it can kind of be up to the judgment of the cop, whether they're like, oh, this person's rubbed me the wrong way, I'm going to go in and check the height of that plant, or they're going to go, oh, well, it's just a noise complaint, I don't really care, it has nothing to do with that plant in the background. Usually those people who are going to end up getting in trouble are usually minorities. So I think that's still a pretty terrifying situation for us to be like looking ahead towards in Canada.
Absolutely.
It's pretty regressive.
No, I'm not saying we shouldn't worry about the situation. I'm just saying though that it's don't make it out to be more than it is. I mean, sure, cops will use that, and minorities are always easy prey in this North America, at least for cops. It's that's nothing new, but they'll use that for anything. It's just. So any excuse, but I mean overall, again, be aware of what's going on and act accordingly.
And don't smoke bunk weed.
No.
We'll see how the enforcement goes, because it's going to be impossible. Like, I don't see how they're really going to do half of the shit they want to. So,
well, they have to have tons of people going around all the time checking everything, and.
Well,
makes no sense.
And look at the justice system that's already ridiculously clogged. And now you talk about, oh, we're going to have a crackdown. It's like, yeah, I'll get to court. I'll get to court in what, 3 years from now?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then they throw it out by then anyways. It's all dropped. Yeah. I mean, it's a waste of time and more waste of money, wasting time, wasting money, and just, piss poor management is what it is. Just absolutely, fraudulent government.
Yeah, I don't even know what court cases are going through right now and how long back it is that they've been all being charged.
Oh, it's not getting any. It's not getting better.
Like Dana's seed thing, it took so long now.
Oh, and now they're waiting till next year again. Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe,
hopefully not.
Yeah, May
Neil
16th
get another
or
delay
something.
too?
Dana. We were actually going to call Dana and
just call him up.
Yeah, we should call
My
him.
phones might die, so we won't use it.
He was on the ferry.
I'm phoneless.
And I wanted to talk
Always
to him
going to
about-
Victoria for the NDP convention.
He is. And I was going to have him on to ask him about the whole seed thing. We can call him right now. Why not?
Yeah, he's probably just driving or sitting or
I think
something.
he was on the way to his... oh, shit, I've only got 3% left on my phone, though.
Oh, we need a charger, anyone?
I need a charger. Do you have a charger? And I also need a microphone. I got this one. 2%.
Oh, nice.
Hello.
Hi, Dana.
Hey, I was watching the show today. Actually, Kris Bennett's part was particularly interesting.
Oh yes, you're live on Pod TV right now.
Right now.
Oh, okay. Oh, right on.
Hi, Dana.
Hello. We just thought we'd call you because I hadn't talked to you earlier, but my phone's at 1% and about to die. We're about to plug in here. Okay, hold on one sec.
Yeah, you can plug it in the computer.
Victoria, I've just walked into the convention hall. So there's lots of happy NDPers here.
Oh, happy NDPers in the convention hall.
Nice.
That's very cool. And yeah, so Dana, tell us about what you're going to do at the convention.
Well, I'm here to talk to my fellow people. There's different policies and resolutions we'll be discussing. I think I'll be hosting a hospitality suite, they call it, when you get a hotel room and it's got beer and weed and friendship to people that come by. So we'll be doing that. And I don't have any particular resolutions or policies I'm pushing here other than just to talk to everybody about cannabis and drug policy in general. And I think we've got a pretty receptive and friendly year in the BC NDP government. We still have a lot of work to do, though, to keep them on board and keep them on a good path provincially, not only for cannabis, but for all of the drug policy issues that we're facing in our province. But I'm pretty optimistic, and I definitely think we're going to get a better response from the new leaders of our province than we did from the Liberals for the last 16 years.
And Yeah, we have a NDP government now that's kind of half NDP and half Green Party, or a small piece Green Party. But it looks like they're saying some positive things about the dispensaries. And have you know, what do you think of the direction they're going in now? Have you heard many positive things in the background?
Well, I think that it's a challenge to bring dispensaries into the legal system entirely at the provincial level because of the way the federal laws are written. But I don't think John Horgan is going to be pushing for any kind of dispensary crackdown or enacting the same kind of really harsh laws that they're putting in Ontario. Of course, we'll see what happens, but I think they're more open to that. I do think he's going to create a similar system in terms of having the liquor union, or the BCGEU, the Government Employees Union, will probably be the official cannabis seller, and I expect they'll create a parallel system to the liquor stores to sell cannabis out of. But one idea that I think is very encouraging, that I think we need to push the BC government on, is to have them to call for the federal government to give them the power to give out the grow licenses. The grow licenses is where the key is, because the storefront dispensaries aren't that hard to regulate and bring into the legal system, but our suppliers are, and we can't really have dispensaries fully integrated without our suppliers being brought in some way. And the current LP system is just too exclusionary, too difficult, and not set up for really small-scale open markets. But if the province could get hold of that, in the same way that if you want to brew liquor or get a liquor license, you have to get a federal excise permit for taxes, but otherwise it's all done at the provincial level in terms of brewing alcohol commercially. So if we could get the BC NDP to push for that, and my preliminary signs are that they are on board with that idea, to protect BC's craft cannabis industry, let them give out the licenses, they could then make it easier for dispensary suppliers to get licensed and to come on board in a fair way, and that would allow dispensaries to continue operating and become fully legal. But that's probably a multi-year process, and I think that the gray area of dispensaries will continue. I think that ultimately it'll be up to municipalities for the next couple of years, so how they want to deal with them. I don't think John Horgan is going to call for a big dispensary crackdown, but I don't know, what he.
Oh.
I think we lost him.
And it freaking died anyways.
Yeah, it died. That's funny. It is plugged in now, but it died anyways.
I just missed it by like
So close.
We can get Dana back.
Right now he's like,
We'll
hello,
come back in a
hello.
second. Yeah. Oh, it's already, the phone's already back on now.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's funny. So it happens sometimes.
Phone death.
Phone death. And she was running around. You guys didn't see because it was happening off cam.
If you could have
But
watched
Alyssa
this
and
cord
Carly were
fiasco
running
going
around.
on here, it was
It was like
hilarious.
double
Trying to get the
team and
cords.
everything.
It was really funny, but good
plugging and
attempts.
unplugging cords.
Yeah,
swapping
Plugging in
cords.
computers and.
Oh hell, that was good.
That was pretty funny.
Well, we got no signal on our pod TV now.
Well, that's fine.
Uh-oh.
We're still on that little screen.
Oh, I was
That's
looking
weird.
at the big screen is out.
Oh, this phone is acting crazy. I don't know what's going on with it.
I'm phoneless.
Obis doesn't even have a phone anymore. He's
No.
like done.
No.
Do we have another
Fuck that
video
shit.
here?
Hey?
Fuck
We could
that
play
shit.
this other video.
Yeah, I'm done with phones.
Wait, what is? Oh, no, that's just that.
Nobody
Oh,
wants to
that's
call me
nice.
anyways.
Ta-da. Yeah. So the Horgan, it seems like a good guy so far. So good.
Oh, I think
Some of the mayors are putting pressure.
I think that's part of it is also with our reputation and the length of time we've been doing what we have in this city and how well accepted it is.
Mm-hmm.
It goes completely against public opinion to all of a sudden pick a fight with the cannabis community in British Columbia.
Well, and this place has been here.
It's not
for...
a good political move at all. It's better to make friends with us and say, yeah, we'll work with you guys. You know, we'll see. We bring the dispensary model into the fold, like you said, push for licensing growers provincially. These types.
Yeah,
of
like
things,
the growers
you
should
know.
be licensed in some sort of way and regulated, so we know that nothing bad's happening. Even though there's nothing bad, there's bad stuff that happens nowadays, and that's not regulated. So that's why we need to have people out there checking stuff, or at least having the product tested in some sort of way before it goes to market, and then at least people would know it's safe.
Yeah. And I think developing a basic, I think the government, they talk about, using it right with alcohol, safe consumption, things like that. I think they really need to push growing it right.
Oh yeah, growing
Some
it right.
basic things, which also include, like, if you're outside, how not to be an environmental dickhead, you know, by putting poisons on the dirt, on the ground, and, you know, like, don't use slug bait, it's bad, like, especially if you're growing in a, you know, outside, like in just an unregulated area.
Yeah, like a wilderness or whatever.
Crown land or something. But, you know, as some people might decide to do, if you're living in an apartment, they're going to go, well, I want to grow 4 plants. They're going to go maybe look for a place in the park somewhere to do it.
Yeah, and you don't want them.
I mean, it's not like it hasn't happened many times before. So, but that's not my argument. But just let's have safe ideas that the government promotes. These
are
good things to
with
use.
California and the outdoor growers or the growers there, there was like drought things that everyone was saying, but
they were blaming the fires and all kinds of things.
Yeah, you know, and then the growers, but I don't like most of the growers are very compassionate and thoughtful of like the environment, but
and a lot of the times, actually, some of the photographs where they showed like old grow sites where there was trash everywhere.
Hi, Dana.
And
we got Dana
things
back.
like that.
Dana's back.
We're back. We're all good now.
We were having phone issues.
Charging issues.
All right.
There we are.
But we got you back now. Yes, our phone died halfway through our thing. We thought we had it plugged in properly, but just at the very last minute, Carly plugged it in and then it died.
All right. Well, we still going on here? We still live?
We're live right now.
Yeah, live.
So yeah, we heard most of what you said. I think just the end we were cut off there a little bit. But we still haven't asked you about your seed case.
That's what we were calling about.
Well, I'll just finish the NDP thing. Is that people should, if you're in BC, call your local MLA, whether they're an NDP or a Liberal or a Green or whatever, and tell them that you want the province to have the power to give out the grow licenses, and that you support dispensaries, and that, you know, they got 45,000 answers to that survey or whatever, however many they got, and that's great. They got a lot of responses, but a personal communication with your local representative is very important and influential at this time. So we have a lot of friends in the Liberals too. Sam Sullivan's running for the leadership of the BC Liberals, and he's running partly on a policy of opening up ending the drug war and ending prohibition and stuff. So we have friends across the line. But yeah, I was just in Calgary. I just got back. I was there for a 4-day trial, which turned out to be kind of a big nothing, but yeah, I was there for a 4-day trial for giving out seeds. From last year, I was arrested in Calgary on my second stop on my Overgrow Canada tour. And I did it again this year, and a couple of cops showed up in Calgary, but they decided not to bother anybody, and they left. But I was facing charges of trafficking in cannabis seeds. Many Canadians don't know that seeds, just like bongs, are illegal in Canada, and people can and do get charged for them, just not very often. But I was giving away seeds in Calgary. I got charged with trafficking on the trial. We had 4 days set aside. We were going to spend 2 days arguing about just how it took too long to get to trial, and it should be tossed for that reason. Not really a very exciting conclusion or kind of a dramatic ending of the law that I would like, but that's one of the options we're looking at. If that doesn't work, then we're going to be debating about whether, because the seeds in question were CBD seeds that produce very little THC, we were going to try to question the whole prohibition of CBD and the idea that CBD plants should not be prohibited in the same way as THC plants. But because it's in a lower court level, at the provincial court, there isn't really a lot of ability for me to get a big precedent and overturn the law. Even if the judge were to agree with my arguments that this is an unconstitutional prohibition, the judge could release me from the penalty, but it wouldn't create a precedent for anybody else. So it wouldn't stop arrests or anything for seeds. So it's kind of, I'm not really sure it's worth the effort in that regard. But if they don't buy our delay argument, and I think they will, because there has been a long delay, that wasn't our fault. But if they don't buy that, then we will argue that CBD plants should not be restricted. They were going to bring in an expert who had tested the plants, and we were going to question them about, did you test for THC? Because the police grew them about 2 or 3 inches tall, just tall enough for the Health Canada expert to go, yep, those are cannabis plants, all right. We were going to sort of question that and THC and different things, but then they ended up agreeing. The Crown prosecutor said they would agree with us and just let us have the fact that these were CBD plants, and they weren't going to argue with that. They would agree that it was plants that were within the legal definition of hemp. under the Canadian regulation. So since they agreed to give us that, we didn't have to spend 2 days about that arguing in court. And so not a lot happened over the 4 days, but they will rule on November 15th as to whether or not the delay issue it falls on our side or not. And then if not, we will go to trial on the rest of it sometime in May or June of next year, just before legalization comes in. And that's another thing, that even if we want a constitutional challenge, because the law is changing, it doesn't mean that we would necessarily
change
get that victory over the new law.
Right, because they just have a new law, and that's the problem with like Mark and Jodie's case or anybody else's now. Why you can't really fight it, because even if you, or I mean, why bother fighting it? Because you win, and then they just have a brand new set of laws. So they've got everybody in a crazy place right now with that.
Yeah, everyone's tied right in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Limbo.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know, I mean, the fact is, I've also, just by doing my thing, I mean, although I was charged and everything, I also did go through many cities, including Calgary again, and not get any police action. So I think that even though we may not get a court victory that forces them to stand down, I think we have proved that this is something the police don't want to get involved in, and I've sort of got a de facto change in that way.
Dana, why was it that they targeted you in the first place? Do you know?
Well, I don't know exactly. I think it was a convergence of factors, but I think Pamela McCall, our nemesis in Vancouver, did call. She called a few of the venues I was booked at as well, and we had to change a couple of our venues because she scared them or threatened them or whatever, and she did call the Calgary police. But I mean, she doesn't have the power to command them what to do. It was still their decision to come down and to interfere and everything. But I mean, originally they might have arrested Cindy if she'd been giving out the seeds, but she had them on the table, and people were taking them off the table, and so she wasn't actually handing them out. But the cops were kind of hovering around while I was making my speech. And then I wasn't aware, but she sent somebody to our truck to get more seeds. And when that person was alone at the truck with the seeds in their hand, the police arrested them. And in the truck, we had some seeds and also some cannabis as well. And so when that person was arrested, when word got to me, I went outside and talked to the police, and I made them arrest me. I wouldn't have pushed it otherwise, because I was like, this is my event. You can't arrest someone else for seeds when it's my seed giveaway. So to sort of protect that person, I gave out seeds right in front of the police. And then I had 5 seeds in my hand. I said, look, I've got seeds. I gave out seeds. He was like, okay, well, then I'll arrest you. And so then they took me into custody. And then they ended up taking away those 5 seeds and then ironically giving them back to me when I left the police station. They put those 5 seeds in the evidence bag in my personal possessions and not into the evidence. So when I left the police station in the morning after getting my bail, they gave me all my stuff back. And in there was those 5 seeds, which I still have in the evidence bag. I mean, they also got all the seeds out of the truck, so they have plenty of seed evidence. But the seeds in my hand that I waved at the police officer was like, see, I got seeds. You have to arrest me. They gave those ones back, which was kind of odd. It just kind of shows how unseriously everyone's treating the whole thing.
Huh, you should do something with those seeds or plant them and grow
really
big
plants. Yeah, I've still got
plants.
them. Cindy carries them around, and, you know, I was hoping to wave them at a judge at some point, but I don't know if they care or not, but it just shows how dumb it is.
Yeah, put them in a pendy. Well, that's cool, Dana. I appreciate you calling, and I know you're sort of busy doing your thing over there, but we were laughing, Dana, about the survey. This is one thing that kind of doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence. You filled the survey out, didn't you? The BC government survey?
I did, yes. It was good, but a lot of the questions are, you know, they only give you limited options in terms of what to answer in the multiple choice kind of format. So our views, you know, don't fully get represented in terms of we're picking F, right. You know, not A to D or whatever, right? We're picking something else.
Yeah,
but also with those things, there's no way of knowing where the person who answered it is from. So anybody, for good or bad, I mean, anybody can answer that survey from any part of the world and say they're in BC, right? So it doesn't really, you know, it informs the government and gives them some ideas, but it's not really a very sort of scientific way of doing it because you don't. But on the other hand, they're kind of in a rush. They just formed government. They don't necessarily have the time to like travel the province and do in-depth consultations and things, right? And I think they probably got a pretty good feel for what people are looking at.
I know, but some of the questions are just basically insulting to your intelligence because they're like, do you want to heavily restrict cannabis or heavily restrict cannabis? It's like there's not a lot of option there for any sort of the opposite. They basically, it's not very honest or something or genuine. I don't know.
Right, they don't put down 16 as a potential age limit or no age limit as an age limit or anything like that when they ask you questions about age limits, and they don't. Yeah, so I would agree. It takes a lot of things for granted and frames the debate in such a way that there's limited answers really available to you, which I think is a problem.
Like all loaded questions.
Loaded questions, yeah. Yes, do you like our new plan or do you love our new plan?
I think I think about this legalization is that so many police forces across the country are demanding more money to enforce legalization, which is just, it should be shut down immediately. Any talk like that. It's not anti-police to say that the police should be spending less money once marijuana is legalized. And that so many cities across the country are facing escalating police budgets that are gobbling up more and more of the resources. And it's partly cannabis and partly just the whole war on drugs and using police as social workers and healthcare workers instead of just as police. But certainly ending cannabis prohibition should mean an immediate, 10% reduction in police budgets across the country. But it sounds like it's just politically easier for them to throw more money at the police and shut them up. And we're going to see the cops getting more money, and it's so ridiculous. Even if there was an issue around smoking and driving, which there really isn't, it's not going to be any different when it's legalized. It's going to be the same, maybe even less, because people will have other options, don't have to hide in their car. So there's a lot of, I think just taking advantage of this and trying to frame the debate in such a way that they all get more cash.
Right, and that's what this whole thing seemed designed from the beginning. I think Justin knew, back in the early stages what they were going to do. Bill Blair and McClellan, they basically get what they were crafting. And now these new rules, you see the new fines are like $1 million for a corporation running a dispensary. This isn't all out.
Yeah, that's at the provincial level, right? They're confused because they don't know how to get rid of dispensaries, and of course they shouldn't really be trying to get rid of them in the first place. But they don't really have, to go to court costs them a lot of time and money, and then they can't really afford to do it all, right? But to fine you, well, then that takes your money and puts it in their pocket, and by seizing your property and taking your stuff, it makes it a lot harder for people to stay in business. So I think that's going to be a thing they use. But will courts be willing to impose those fines? Will courts see it that way? Will they want to hand down $1 million fines? Is the province? There's a lot of legal questions around that I think will be put to play. But and we'll see people switch from storefronts to mail order and to delivery and things like that are sort of easier. But yeah, there's no reason for those kind of fines, and those are very extreme and very harsh penalties compared to other things that we would consider more severe. Assault or polluting the environment or ripping people off financially. You get much smaller fines than you're going to get now for selling somebody a bit of cannabis.
Even selling alcohol to them bootleg style was way less than anything like that.
Yeah, I know. It's really bizarre that there doesn't seem to be any justification. It seems like they can treat cannabis totally different than everything else, and I'm not sure why. Why is it the nuclear substance?
Like drinking underage fine was like $97
Well, it's
when I was younger.
of prohibition, and it's people trying to maintain prohibition within legalization and trying to, sort of preserve all their profits. But I still see this as a crumbling, and this is a retreating position, and I don't see it being tenable in the long run. This legislation is not all done yet. It hasn't passed yet in Ontario. We're coming up to an election next year, so there's plenty of opportunity for this kind of stuff to become key election issues. Our legislation already has improved. They've taken away the 100-centimeter limit or the 1-meter limit, which is a great improvement, I think, and a very important change. And the Senate still has to look at it in Canada. So the Senate, there's certainly the possibility they could screw it up too and complain that it's not severe enough. But the Senate also has a chance to open things up. And so this is just their opening positions. We don't need to accept these rules. And we should be challenging this stuff politically, through disobedience, through voting, and through the courts, as we always have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course.
Well, thanks, Dana. I appreciate you sharing your wisdom with us here from Victoria, BC, where Dana's at the NDP convention. So have fun schmoozing with the politicos, Dana.
Get them all super
I
baked.
tell people, it's really easy to get involved in this kind of stuff, and there's a lot of friendly people here. And if the NDP isn't your political persuasion, then join a different party. But getting involved at the political level and going to these kind of events can be frustrating sometimes, but can also is a very effective way to reach key people that are making very important decisions for us all. So get involved, and thanks for having me on the show, Jared. Bye for now.
Enjoy your hospitality suite.
Yeah, and have fun in the hospitality suite. Get them all stoned. Yeah, give them some good rosin. Bye, Dana.
Bye, Dana.
It'll be hospitable.
Hospitable, very hospitable. Hospitable. Yeah.
It'll be
dabbing them up.
Just a bunch of weed in there.
He needs like a bunch of e-nails.
Volcanoes going. Sublimators.
Yeah. Well, I've been in Dana's hotel rooms. It's usually a lot like
people.
that.
It is, I guess. Yeah.
No, he's got big joints rolled with like crumbled hash in them.
Yeah, he smokes in a lot of hotels, and I'm really surprised because I'm like so nervous. I'm like, oh, we can't smoke in here.
He always smokes in the hotel.
And you go in his room, and it's just like big cannon.
And
like,
rarely have we had a problem. Sometimes
Saskatoon, they kicked them out, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah. At the Chelsea, I always tell this story. We had the room right next to the elevator, like right where the elevator is. So we're on the it's really high. The Delta Chelsea is the biggest hotel in Canada, but we were there and we were in the room and somebody had left the door open a little bit, and so we were blazing hard, and it went right down the elevator shaft, and the people on the bottom floor in the lobby could smell it coming down, and everybody could smell it. And so
that sounds like Dana.
We heard a knock on the door, and the door opened because it was already open, and it was 4 or 5 security people and the women from the hotel and everything. They're like, what are you guys doing in here? It smells like smoke.
Blazing hell.
It
smells like smoke.
We can smell you on the bottom floor. We're like, oh, shit.
We're cooking nachos.
Yeah. A skunk got around in the building here or something. Somebody kicked a skunk. And then we are burning some sage to get rid of the smell. And
that's the smokiness.
The combination. Skunk and sage. It smells like weed.
We had sausages and beer.
What'd they say? What ended up happening?
I think they gave Dana a $200 fine or something. Yeah. But I guess they said they were going to, and then they never did, or something.
Oh, really? That's nice.
Yeah, or I don't know. Dana would have to answer that one, but I'm not sure if this is one we want to be.
Yeah.
But anyways, usually we do smoke in our hotel rooms. We just open the window.
Yeah.
Or go out on the balcony if there is one.
Smoke buddies too, if you're nervous.
Yeah, smoke buddy and the e-pens and stuff.
Oh yeah,
and I've been known to go and buy a mini travel bottle of Febreze from a 7-Eleven. And
I recommend Ozium.
Well, if you can get it, but yeah, it depends.
I'm
talking in a pinch.
Ozium.
They used to use it in hospitals back in the day when you could smoke in there. So it's it's still not good for you, but it does work.
When you can smoke in the hospital.
It was used as. Yeah, Ozium was originally used as undertakers used it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, even better.
Yeah,
Keep that
it
dead
was used
body
by
smell.
undertakers originally. Yeah.
What is? It's just like nil odor or something.
No, it's actually
like a sanitizer. It's like an O3
it's
molecule.
like an ozone.
Almost.
Yeah, an ozone molecule. It's actually not good. It's unhealthy to spray that shit around. It's
yeah,
but
it's an ozone molecule, but it
Let's
works.
go get some.
We have some. There's some downstairs, I think.
It's environmentally unfriendly.
Oh.
I don't like that.
And it does, but it does.
I guess it's called ozone.
Yeah, it's like.
Oh no, it's called Ozium.
Ozium.
But still.
Osmenzius.
Spray from the store and the little scent gel things.
Ona.
And they work pretty well.
Yeah, the Ona.
Yeah. Those ones are good.
And the smoke buddies, like you said, those work great.
Oh, I love the smoke buddies. I'll smoke at a concert or in a plane, and even if the security guard sees me puffing on
a plane.
Yeah, I have used the smoke buddy and an e-cig on a plane.
You used an that is insane.
So have I.
And we used to smoke. We used to actually vape on the plane.
I've used my e-cig and the smoke buddy in my seat.
Like when I got that little volcano.
Right in my seat. I didn't even bother going
any. Or whatever it is there, little guy.
I'd be nervous to even just bring the vaporizer on.
No, they were cool with it for a while.
My gas mask bong on the plane. Nobody said a word. I just was huffing all day. Yeah.
No, but I kept my e-cig and my thing right down like I was hiding, like that, and then blew into the you know, the smoke buddy.
They thought you were some kind of freak show.
No, I just kept it down when nobody was looking because I didn't have anyone
You were
beside me,
twitching
so I
around
just
violently?
made sure there was nobody sort of paying attention. Just kept it really sly, and I didn't. It was a flight to Toronto from the coast, so I, halfway there, I figured, well, I'll have like 2 or 3
Might as well have a
hits
couple
on
tokes.
the E-pen, and got me through the rest of the trip. And
Pulls a
just
high guy bong out of
chill.
his-
Like Harold and Kumar styles. They're
No,
like,
pull out a butane torch and some hot knives, right?
That's funny. Well, what time is it here? It's almost 7 o'clock. Jeez, it's been a 3-hour show again today.
Wah, wah.
We do that a lot around here.
Stoners
do I have
don't
any
have
videos
thoughts.
left? Let's see. What do I got? No, we did that.
probably
one.
has like 10 videos.
I think we did them all.
Carly's yawning.
Sorry, guys.
Tricked
Close.
ya.
7 o'clock.
He always
time
does
for
that
bed.
to me.
Tricky. What's
Too
the
much
scene?
indica
10?
today.
Nothing there.
Oh, smoking
Nothing
lots
there.
of indica today. God, that's
There was something there at one time, but it's not working. So it looks like we're good.
Good as wood.
Good as wood. So yeah, that was a fun show, guys. Thanks for joining me, Mr. Cookie.
No worries.
That
Thanks
was
for
awesome.
coming by.
And Opus and Carly
well-
Marley over on the hot seat cam. Yes, and we
Wah,
had
wah.
David Malma-Levine and Jodie Emery here earlier. Chris Bennett, Dana Larson on the telephone. It's been a packed day.
Johnny B back
Johnny
in town.
B,
with his
of
haircut.
course.
Johnny B.
Johnny Elvis B.
To the left.
Boss
That's
was on the board.
Oh wait, who's that? Who was the guy who sings "Rock Around the Clock"?
Chuck Berry?
No,
Buddy Holly? No.
No, the guy, and he's got like a little curl on this.
Oh, yeah.
Alfalfa?
Alfalfa, that's who it was. Definitely.
He's from the Little Rascals, but yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
Yes.
And
he
had
did sing a
spike
lot
in
of
the back,
songs.
I thought. Wait, oh.
He has a little curl.
Wait, is
Alfalfa
that
has a
thing?
curl, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's that.
Doesn't he have
Alfalfa
both?
has like a little point.
I thought
on
he
it.
had both.
Bill
No,
Haley.
he might.
His little
He might have
girlfriend
I think he has
He might,
both.
Bill
His
Haley
little
in
girlfriend
his
Dora
comics.
Maybe his
did.
girlfriend.
Look at his little twist of hair. Bill Haley. That's his name.
Is that who you're thinking of?
Bill
Yeah.
Haley.
Can you show to the class? Or
No.
He just
Bill
looks-
Haley in
that's
the
what he looks
comics.
like.
He's there's his hair.
Oh yeah, he was right. He had like a curly thing.
There he is. Here he is. Look.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
total curly.
Bill
thing.
Haley. Here, we can put it on the cam here. See? I know. There's Johnny B.
Yeah, he just had like a hat on earlier. Wind.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. And that's Rock Around the Clock.
After he burnt some off with the torch.
Yep.
Johnny.
All right. Well, you can watch all kinds of fun shows on Pot TV all week long.
Yee.
Right here on pot.tv. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There's all kinds of stuff, including Carly's show on Mondays.
Yeah.
And
14
coming up
minutes
soon
show.
is Opus's new game show. Opus 420's Pot of Gold.
Yeah, well, probably in a week or so, I hope we'll have posters up, and that will
Have some
be how
contestants.
you'll find out if you want to play.
We could get contestants from our shows.
Yeah.
We'll
want-
definitely be
want-
telling the audience how they can participate.
We want to get the public in, and so if you guys want to be on Pod TV and win some great prizes and show everybody how smart you and 2 of your buddies are,
or not,
or show, yeah. But yeah, we'll have details coming up soon. How you'll be able to contact us, and yeah, we're looking for contestants. Might be
It'll
you.
be fun.
I'll be like, come on down.
Yep.
I can't wait to practice.
We're stealing from a lot of different shows.
You're the next contestant on the.
We're stealing from a whole bunch of different
Pot of
game
Gold.
shows, especially Japanese game shows.
You mean they're all totally original ideas?
Opus has a predilection for Japanese game shows.
Wipe out.
That's it. Well, if you like game shows, you'll love my show because I'm stealing something from everything that's ever been done.
Nice combo.
Awesome. And weedifying it.
And of course. Oh, no, I'm making it like, yeah, that's the whole concept. It's got to be potty.
Well, apparently Snoop Dogg's putting out a game show now, so you're gonna have to
he's
figure
a-
out what he's
well,
doing.
he's a copycat.
You're gonna have to figure out what he's doing and incorporate that now. He must have caught wind of
What's
you
his
doing the
game show?
I don't know. I just keep hearing the ads, and he's like,
Pot
"We're
of
putting
Gold,
the G
no.
back in game show."
And it's funny you mentioned
Lord.
Snoop because
That's funny.
I actually was writing up some questions the other night, and he is one of the questions in the new show. There's a
there you
Snoop
go.
Dogg question.
Is that the answer? Now you just gave away the answer.
Yeah.
No.
Coming down for that
There's
one.
a question.
What music
Actually,
artist?
Now the question will be, who stole my game show idea?
It'll be actually the category is the Snoop Dogg That's the category. Is Snoop Dogg is a category. So.
Oh, there's a lot of questions around him for sure. Definitely, you could have
Oh,
marijuana
we've
related.
got from the trailer park.
Lots of.
Oh, I like the
category.
trailer park ones.
Yeah, there's a from the park. Oh yeah,
Snoop
you'll like
Dogg
that.
trivia.
That'll be popular.
Oh, it's gonna be fun.
We have a game
excited.
called Stoner Telepathy.
Yeah.
Plinko? No, I don't know.
I love
Yeah.
Plinko.
We don't have Plinko.
We got it.
Yet.
We're gonna have a wheel.
Yep.
Spin the wheel. We're gonna have a
We're
big
thinking
wheel.
about Plinko though. There's actually you can buy Plinko things. But
What?
I would make a
Call
Plinko
it drop
for you
zone,
guys.
man. Drop
Yeah,
zone.
drop zone. Ding, 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 ding,
Yeah.
You know.
Ding, ding,
Oh,
ding,
It'd be
ding.
that hard to make. You just need a piece of plywood that's like angled and it's got a little
No,
like
it's
bin at the
just-
bottom.
Well, you can
Like,
angle
Carly's
like
getting
any.
work.
You can angle
Yeah.
any
I will-
plywood.
I like the
Can you
ones,
imagine? I'd be
the homemade ones.
Carly's
you
getting
wear
out the
your
hammer
clothes,
and nails.
and then it gets stuck.
That's funny.
Stalled.
Oops.
You're allowed to bump.
Chillin' Like a Villain has an idea for a game. He saw a Japanese game show where they had to catch a carrot in their arse.
Yeah, no, that. Those are why are my favorite shows are the Japanese game shows.
I saw one where it was, is
so
it candy
degrading.
or not? And the people just have to have, like, they're blindfolded and they just open their mouth and they put random things in their mouth. And they,
Some
but it's pretty
nasty
great because
shit.
sometimes it's really gross, but sometimes they'll be passing the chocolate bar and the person's like, and they just don't want to deal with it. So.
After they just ate like crickets.
yeah, something really nasty. It's like a shoe
slug.
sometimes. It's weird. Yeah.
That's
You could do that for stoners, I guess.
Yeah.
What's your
Is it a doobie
bud?
or not?
Yeah.
But what's this smell like?
Smell the identify the strain by smell. That's
Yeah.
a good title right there. Identify the strain by smell. No, you have a whole bunch of games ready to go though.
We got a couple, and we're working on more, and we hope to
people can get a
some
preview.
contestants, get it going, and we'll go from there. We're building this as we go. So
People can right now get a preview of your show if they go on and watch Pot TV's coverage of the Prairie Cup in Saskatoon.
Day
You
two.
watch the pilot. It is day 2.
we did
That's
a
right.
we did a
And
pilot.
it's
at the
actually
Prairie
it
Cup.
exists if you go to the Facebook page and you go to the video section. You'll see it just on its own as Opus's Pot of Gold.
Hey.
You can see the pot of gold logo actually.
Oh, that's right. You can.
Yeah, the show logo is up.
Show logo is
Thanks,
the thumbnail
Gary
for that
Wintle
one.
for that. Did an awesome
Gary knows
job.
what's up.
Yeah, Gary does a great job. All right, Pot
Just
TV.
mention tomorrow's show too, since the tomorrow's show host is
Oh,
in
no,
studio
of
as
course.
well.
Alyssa's show.
Wah, wah.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh, there's the boss
There.
cam.
Yeah,
Look,
boss
we've got
cam.
multiple
Boss
boss
is,
cams. Boss cam.
Double
Dun,
double
dun, dun,
cam.
dun, dun.
There she is.
Woo. Oh, there. Oh, yeah.
Ends it.
Yeah. Ooh, hi. Hiya. Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Nice.
At noon. High noon.
High noon.
At noon.
With
If you're not
Boss
high
Listen.
by noon, you've got a problem.
It's perfect on
That's right.
Saturdays.
Fun
It's like
show.
a wake and bake show for the average stoner on a Saturday, so it,
It is
works
a wake
out
and
well.
bake.
It's like
Saturday show.
stoner brunch at high noon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Kitsilano ladies are coming
That's
by.
exciting.
They're all ladies from Kitsilano.
I hope they're bringing bagels.
Oh, that's right.
Maybe they'll bring weed.
At the Cannabis Culture. At CC.
Ask them to pick up
Broadway.
bagels.
What's the 1426? What's the address?
1375
West Broadway.
1375 West Broadway. Visit that Cannabis Culture location. You will be happy you did.
Oh,
right
hell
beside
yes,
the
you
barber
will.
shop.
Yeah. Yeah, get your
And the
haircut.
bakery,
A haircut and
Get some weed.
that tasty
Just
cafe.
don't get your
oh,
the
and
hair
a
in the bag.
massage place.
Oh,
Damn.
damn.
a bag and a
Just
haircut.
camping out.
Deacons.
Deacons on the corner.
Everything you need over there. Yep.
On the
Greek
corner.
Bakery. Is that Deacons? The
Boss
Greek-
List is very
No,
knowledgeable
that's next
about
door
the
to
beer
Greek
bag
bakery.
businesses.
the barber shop.
Good
Yeah.
employee, knowing where to tell them to go after they
Just
smoke their
advertise
doobies.
for the whole neighborhood.
Is that like weed and haircut 2 bits?
Weed haircut.
Yeah, you know, that's something.
might start
when
like
is that
that.
going to be a thing? Because we can go to the barbershop now and you can get a glass
drink.
of
You don't have
wine.
a camera
Beers.
anymore. Here
That
we
would
go.
be. I think that it would be pretty wicked if I could go to get my hair done and I could smoke a doobie. That's why I get my friends to do my hair, because then I can just sit in their living room and smoke a doobie the whole time. So
I would like
One
to get
day.
my haircut and smoke a Cannagar.
one day,
There you
someone
go.
out there, some entrepreneur, get on
Weed
that
salon.
shit.
That's coming.
Yep.
Can't be that far away. Shit.
There can't
Oh,
be
yeah.
that many regulations. They use like hair dyes and shit. They're probably
Yeah,
way worse
exactly.
than anything
And
you're
wh- and
gonna
really-
inhale.
And they're on their feet for like 10 hours a day.
When these new regs come in and it's
But their
legal,
feet look real good though.
we're going to
Yeah,
weedify
tight
nails
the
are
hell
done.
out of shit.
Tight toes.
We're just gonna weedify the hell out of everything. You know that.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
The world.
Like right now, you can open a shoe store and you can serve beer and wine at it, but you can't smoke weed. But
Starbucks serves wine.
soon.
Yes.
I'd love to go buy shoes and
Starbucks
then be like,
serves.
oh, here's some weed.
I heard they're gonna serve beer soon.
You know what's something funny
They
that I
already
was
do
told
at one
by?
of them.
Really? At a Starbucks?
Yeah.
No shit.
I don't know which one, but I'm pretty sure I've seen it on
Only
Facebook.
one in the whole
They're,
world.
I think they're trying it out still.
Oh.
I was told by a cab driver the other day. We were talking about the difference
Right.
between like the East Coast and Vancouver, and he was saying one thing he missed about working in like the Ottawa area and near that area was that there was more customers who used to pay him half cash, half hash. And I was like, Vancouver, we should be the ones. And I was like, oh, wow. I was like, I didn't realize that cab drivers would be open to that. Like,
That's a
I'm
good
totally
business.
going to try that from now on because a lot of the time I have more hash on me than I have cash on me, and I'm not a big hash smoker either.
What a
so,
great line though. Hash and cash.
Half hash, half cash.
Half cash.
Yeah.
Should have put a sign in his cab, and then people would have just like
Yeah, because
Just
that would
half
score
and
you.
half. You're like, oh.
take the half and half option.
And you know, after he said it, I was like, I'm going to take it upon myself to offer it to my cab drivers from now on, and I'll tell my
Hilarious.
friends in the community to do the same because we have damn good hash, and we should not let Ontario be winning and paying their cab fare with hash. We should definitely be paying everything.
Need
with
hash coins.
Hash coins.
Hash coins.
Ricky's
Well,
sending
when
them
I-
over from
When I was a
the East Coast.
grower, when I grew, man, I always offered people, "Hey, will you take some weed for that?" I'd always ask people, or quite
Just
often
be have
people are
extra
like,
weed. Yeah, that's what.
"Yeah, I didn't know if I should ask you, man." Like that was always like more.
You smell like weed.
You're in the
man,
McDonald's
but-
drive-through.
Talking to the clown.
Yeah. Would you take some weed for that,
Take some weed.
Ronald?
I don't know who's back there, but I got some weed to trade.
Trade you weed for a milkshake.
Pull up to the window. You guys take this sack. Take this sack for my order.
Yeah, what's that?
Just roll down the baggie.
Weed currency.
They're like,
Yeah. Just holding it. In the window.
be like,
Yeah. Everybody's high. Then they take it.
They'd be like, the guy be like looking back, seeing his managers around. Give me
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Probably taken.
There's actually somebody who did that as a prank. They went around and they tried to they were trying to, but it wasn't actually real weed. They just were trying to shock the employees.
Oh, I saw
but
that.
It was
video.
oregano.
Yeah.
Should do it with real weed.
There was the
Yeah,
one person
exactly.
who got pissed because it wasn't real weed. He's like, "Dude, what's this shit?"
Yeah, exactly.
this ain't weed.
It was like some guy because he was like totally down. Like, yeah, give me the weed. Yeah.
I'll take weed
What
any
about
day.
that?
Guy had no real weed.
Yeah.
Bummed.
Let's get the floor.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up. It's 7:02.
That's
Beautiful
good. We're out.
Vancouver, British Columbia, 307 West Hastings. Come down by here, and you can
Just
see
lounge.
the hula hooping out the window.
That happens in live.
Yeah, that's
real time.
Exactly. Lots of fun in this building at 307 West Hastings. 2 floors of Vapor Lounge. Upstairs, downstairs. Got our studio here. Head shop. Lots of weed.
All your weed needs.
All your weed needs. You can bring your own or get some goodies here.
Try
So
the
come
flavor
on down.
country.
Yes. We're in flavor country. And it's a big country. All right. Peace Pod TV. We love you.
Later.
Say bye to these guys.
Bye.
Oh, where are they? There they are. There they are. Enjoy your